Zlurpcast!
Hey, Zlurpcast TV shirts. That's the show. Biran, why didn't you tell me you were wearing this today? I got to get Mike in there.
Well, it was crumpled up on your bedroom
I
floor
have,
this morning, and I just threw it on.
Cool. Sorry, I meant your guy, Mike.
Oh, okay.
I meant your character.
You mean mutant kind?
Yeah, mutant. Oh, sorry, I didn't identities. Mutant kind. Biran and I are wearing this shirt. You can buy it at zlurpcast.net if you're a fan of the show, a fan of Death Path. You can get that. It's like around $20 ish. Don't get the V-neck one because who does that? It's probably going to show up first. Just other products and scroll until you find what you want. For example, gamer archetype pouch. You can get that too. This show is Zlurpcast TV. We generally talk about tabletop games, sometimes comics, sometimes we play a 90s game show. Like last week, and we find out Mike, who knows everything about anything and also anything about everything, didn't know who sang the classic Jump Around. Mike, real quick, you said today, it was sort of in private, you said, I know the hook. I didn't know who was saying. So you've heard that though at sporting events, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. That wasn't the first time you heard that song.
No. I'm familiar with the song. I had no idea that it had a title or.
You just thought it was like one of those like
Well,
y'all ready for this?
But, yeah.
Like something that would only be on jock jams only, you know.
Oh, I miss jock jams.
Those were good. Those first couple were awesome. Xtreme, on a quick side note, didn't we give away a Monster Booty CD at one of your tournaments once as a prize? That was in the same run as Jock Jam. Nobody, really bought Monster Booty, but the cover had a Monster Booty on it. I believe it had similar songs to what you would find. I believe it was Y'all Ready for This and Other Hits. So today we are going to talk about kind of get back on track as far as tabletop games, not cover a game, but talk about us and our venture into playing these games, how we got started into this type of nerdery, how we decided at this point forward, we are no longer interested in girls, and we have taken a vow to roll dice and sit across from another ugly motherfucker and just argue until they're not your friend anymore.
Are we no longer interested in girls, or girls were never interested in us?
Well, both.
No.
You could be interested all you want, Biran. I mean, I think when you just, it's like, what do you call it? Join the Night's Watch. You know what I mean? You take the black.
The Night's Watch is the incels.
It's very much so. And so let's like Samwell, he's just like, well, no one's gonna date
he's not getting any.
Right. Might as well.
But then Samwise is like, or not Samwise. Jon Snow's could add anything.
Right, he could have, but he's like, no. It's like, I'm just gonna do dank beams all day, or whatever the equivalent is. Yeah, so that's what happens when you play these games. Now they're becoming more and more mainstream, so it's not quite the same. So like when we get into our backstories and our lore, things are different back then. Mike, if you're walking around with some gaming books in 1988, it's a little different than walking around in 2021 with those same gaming books. Very different, very different. So we're going to talk about how we got into those games, what we played first, how it evolved, who got us into it, who was the enabler, who just said, you know what, you're not going to need your dick, so let's just roll some dice, whatever. Just to reiterate, we have Xtreme here in probably the best, I'd say definitely best beard today. It's a very clean cut beard, the Danhausen shirt there. Biran and I are the bald fucks with scraggly beards with the Zlurpcast shirts, and Mike is the flannel wearing, XCW wearing man to the bottom.
Man.
I have a story about Mike and his flannel.
Oh,
sort
yeah?
of.
Is it about him washing it in a toilet?
Is he still a man in
No.
this story?
No, so I was shopping for a gift for Mike, and I was looking for a Cactus Jack item, but every time I searched, I typed in Cactus Sack. I did it like 6 different times. I was like, damn it, no, not Cactus Sack. Nothing's coming
Did
up.
Google say, did you mean Cactus Jack?
No, well, I was doing it in like eBay and Amazon and stuff, so they weren't correcting it for me. It was just
Okay.
coming up with nothing.
So I'm to assume that there is no Cactus Sack merch available.
I didn't find any, no.
So,
I would think it might come up on eBay because isn't that his XCW card?
right, that's what I was gonna say. The only thing that we know of would be a Super Show pack, and maybe
Limited
something-
edition flashlight.
could be maybe something Insane Clown Posse related. Strangle Mania 2 featuring Cactus Sack.
Cactus Sack and Hatchet Man live on stage.
Yeah, it was Cactus Sack, Lama Nama Numi, and Leather Tits.
I didn't find anything in those searches, but
Okay,
I went a different direction. So I
you had
just
other
started-
other ICP searches ready to go.
Yep.
Like you're like, I want to get the ticket stub of that gathering I went to. I want to get one of those.
I didn't
You
go to a
still claim
gathering.
it wasn't a gathering. But listen,
It wasn't.
Xtreme, if you found yourself in a weird van in Cave in Rock, Illinois, with no cell reception, you, my friend, are at a gathering of the Juggalos. That's
Have we
all
told
that
the story?
happens in. That's all that
Have we
happens in
told the
Cave in
story of
Rock.
the concert I went to?
Yeah, I know about it, but I'm just changing the narrative.
Okay. But I mean, has it been told on Zlurpcast in an audio format, maybe?
No, sounds like I mean, I know it's probably not how you got into tabletop gaming, but do you want to do a
No.
quick a side quest, if you will,
That's all
and
right.
talk about your ICP?
Yeah, we can include it in the for the Slurp Nation.
Oh yeah, Biran stopped doing those. He got lazy as fuck and just stopped them.
Yep.
And it's like now is like the time of giving. I should be giving away extra content. All of a sudden, producers are like, nope, pay me more, motherfucker, and then I'll do it. That's what he said.
But now it's in the middle of an episode, so you'd have to cut it out. So that's not gonna
And
happen.
he's not doing that either, obviously. All right, Xtreme, go ahead. What's your Juggalo story?
Well, I can do it next time at the beginning, so then it'll be easier.
Ooh, you got everybody hard.
Teaser.
Yeah. Man,
That'll be
okay.
a Christmas present.
No, I have
Yeah.
a stomach ache.
Yeah, everyone tweet a picture of your blue balls right now, or your black and white balls for the face painting. Well, that's fine, Xtreme. Why don't you hold on to it? We are going to start at the very beginning. And before we hit record on this one, Mike was talking about Lord of the Rings in the 30s. And so let's fast forward a little bit. And so who got started in gaming in the 70s? Oh, 80s?
Oh yeah.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. So Mike, why don't we start with your story? Yeah. Who got you into it? What'd you get into? Where did it go from there?
Well, this was in like 81, 82. So we got it. We were playing D&D. We got into that. And this was the height of the D&D is satanic
Right.
and all of that.
Who was
but-
the so like a few years after that, remember there was that whole like PMRC Tipper Gore with heavy metal. This was before that. Was this like the evangelists that were like,
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
satanic panic.
Yeah. And it had the Mazes and Monsters movie and
Tom
what are
Hanks'
the
greatest
little
movie
comics
today.
called?
and let me ask you, as I'm guessing a bit of a defiant teen, that only made you think it's even cooler, right?
Oh yeah.
You know.
I
But
didn't
I
think it
was
was
like,
cool.
what? I didn't get it. And when we started playing it, I was like, where's the satanic? I was looking for all of this. And aside from the succubus picture in the monster manual.
Oh, so you in a weird way, you were almost like a bait and switch, kind of like I was told there would be Satanism in these books, and all we see is a bunch of charts.
Yeah.
I remember do you guys ever see the Chick Tracks? Those religious comic.
Oh, yeah, that's what I was talking about. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
What is
they
that?
made it sound like you learn how to cast real spells, and I'm like, oh
Yeah.
shit.
Wow. And yeah, you wonder, like, I know there's different editions. Do I have like an old one? Because there's no real spells in there. I mean, So Mike, you and is it like high school buddies?
This is junior high, but yeah.
Junior high.
Yeah.
And I mean, is this kind of like, so when you watch something like Stranger Things, are you like kind of like, that's the idea is you've got your crew and you're creating scenarios and maps and just playing in someone's basement?
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's exactly what we did.
Okay.
And we had the miniatures. And that's how I got into miniatures, was the Heritage Dungeon Dwellers and the Grenadier figures. And then a buddy of mine, he had to go on vacation, and his mom stopped at this florist. It was a greenhouse. And in the back of the greenhouse, there was a miniature. It was like a wargaming thing. It's exactly like Prosex, if you're familiar with Prosex, but it was in Kansas. And he got these Raw Partha miniatures. Now, at the time, when you looked at Heritage and Grenadier, and then you looked at Tom Meyer's sculpts for Raw Partha, they were just worlds above. They were just amazing. And we then got these rules called Rules According to Ral, which is the Raw Partha miniature rules. And it was my first really foray into, actual wargaming. And it did not have any kind of point values or anything. It was just, like Age of Sigmar was. Just bring what you have and play with them.
It was rules for the models you just bought.
Yeah, yeah. And but my friend, he had a job, he had a paper route, and I didn't. And so he had a lot more miniatures than I did. Yeah. And so he always won because he just had more figures. So
that sounds like, I mean, well, I may not like, for me, it was maybe like having action figures, and it's like, well, we got to have collection versus collection. Like, there's no points. Yeah. We're not even. You just bring your men's, bring everybody you got.
Bring all your guys.
Yeah. At this point, Mike, are you trying to, I mean, because I'm trying to think, they were all fantasy, right? They were not sci-fi back then.
No, there was a couple, but not really.
And so this is not at this point. Obviously, you still might be playing D&D with a few models, but the idea was we can get more toys on the table if we play with these rules, right?
Yeah.
And what were those? Was it literally just like move and fight, or was there,
they actually had, I remember, I was trying to find the PDF of this online today and I couldn't, but they actually had every round started with a heroes challenge. And so every squad or unit, whatever, you had heroes, and the heroes would fight. And I thought that was pretty cool. And then, so to try to balance it out, because even when we brought in another one of our friends, we still didn't have enough. So that's when I started doing, like, I started making magic rules, and all my heroes, all my forces were based around Blue Oyster Cults.
And they all have stubborn.
They all had stubborn.
They all stubborn.
Guard, nice.
But they all had shields that had the Cronus on it, the Blue Oyster Cult symbol, and
oh, nice.
Yeah,
because that was obviously a fun theme to kind of, and they were huge band back then still. What was the rationale, or how did it come about to consider making things even? Because I mean, you're playing role-playing games, and there's so there, I don't understand. It seems to me like
role-playing, there's no winner,
Oh,
and
there is.
We were also bad,
just losers,
players,
Okay, so
it was terrible, because we like in D&D first edition, we're like, experience points for gold pieces, that's just stupid, so we didn't do it. But it took fucking forever. I mean, you have to kill 500 goblins to get to second level, so it was ridiculous. But anyway, we weren't smart enough to think of some of that shit. So, but making it even was like, I kept losing, and that kind of sucked. Yeah. Because I knew what the problem was, is because he had twice as many minis as I did. So
you're like,
it's not true about real life. The richest people win.
Right. Exactly. It's very much I don't have the same opportunities as you do.
Yeah.
So, and instead of making rules to help you, why don't you just get a job?
I was too young.
That's not Biran.
I didn't want to do the paper route thing.
Pull yourself up by your bootstraps.
No age.
I wasn't old enough to wear boots, much less with straps. So
pull yourself up by your moon boots.
Yeah.
So where's that paper route now? Does he still have it?
No, he does not.
Okay, I didn't know if he eventually became like the editor or something. So at that point, is that the only? I mean, because it's sort of a game store, right? Sort of a hobby store. What else was out there? Was there other like war game rules at that time?
The big one was Chainmail. That was Gary Gygax's battle game.
There was that, and there was some, Napoleonic stuff.
Yeah, that predates it by quite a bit.
Yeah.
That was what Peter Cushing was into. That he was into Napoleonic.
Yeah.
He was the first. If you are, we're not going to do this, but the celebrities who play games.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
That was the first rumor. Like, yeah, he plays.
Well, there's actual video of him with his miniatures.
That's right. There is. I have seen that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so you're playing this, and at that point, are you just buying more stuff, or you said you're making more rules, right?
And it was hard to get the stuff back then because there's a store in the basement of Fox Valley, which is now the Fox Valley Mall, which was in the food court. And you just got what they got,
They had do you remember the store at Woodfield, the Tinderbox? It sold pipes and pipe tobacco, but also pewter miniatures.
Yes, it had the pewter stuff. Yeah. Which some of those were actual raw Partha sculpts that they put into pewter.
And these were lead back in the day.
Yeah. Well, the miniatures were lead too. So that was a big thing around 84, 85. They had to do that switch.
Yeah. So at this point, you get what you get, whatever they got, and you're playing with them. I mean, were these like just roll a D6 and you have your stats? And what was the?
I assume it was all chart based.
Yeah, it was chart based stuff. Yeah,
Okay.
I don't remember exactly what we did, but
okay.
Yeah.
It was charts predominantly for a long time.
Oh yeah.
So at that point, what was your transition from there? Did it go more towards like war-based board games type, or was it still in the miniature side?
It was mostly the miniatures because I enjoyed the painting too.
Okay.
And
was that no prime testers right on bare metal?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And because all my chainmail is just the bare metal.
Yeah. It's already colored.
Yeah, it's already colored. Don't need to do that. And the grime shit in there.
Yeah.
And
metal.
Look at your brush when you're dipping in the turpentine and
3-color minimum. So you got metal, prime, plastic base.
Yep.
That's 3.
Yeah.
Covered.
Well, we didn't have plastic bases back then.
Oh, that's right. They were all just molded.
Yeah,
all one piece.
Even the Citadel stuff I have is all the pre-Slata.
Yeah.
So,
so going from there, what was next?
I played a little BattleTech in college, but was with other people's stuff. But I was kind of out of the whole miniature thing.
In high school, you didn't play that much. It was, or did you?
In college, no.
No. High school, you played or no?
Well, we played D&D and stuff.
Oh, okay, because you were saying junior high, so that continued on.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
College.
But then I didn't get many. I remember once I went to a store and bought. They were actually. I later learned they were Chaos Space Marines, just to try it, but I didn't have any paints or anything like that, so it was weird. But then in grad school, they had a shop in Gainesville called the Traveling Mage. And it was one of the 2 big ones this is like the late 90s. Remember when everything was 40, like New Wave miniatures and Traveling Mage were the 2 big ones that had 40% off everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. And New Wave. I was getting into Chronopia, which is a fantasy-based miniature that wasn't Games Workshop.
Would you say Chronopia was like how Mantic is, where it's a great value Warhammer?
Yeah, it was a skirmish game. It wasn't like rank and flank. And it was D20 based.
Okay.
And
I never played. I just bought some models for it.
Yeah, and I enjoyed it. I liked the factions. I liked the fact that the dwarves worship these beast gods, and the elves were the knight, the paladin like badasses and all that. So, and then I got into Blood Bowl, and then I got into fantasy when they had the first Bazaar of the Bazaar at the bunker. And
I thought you got into fantasy way before all that.
No, it was. I mean, I bought some miniatures because that's what actually got me to Blood Bowl. Was I liked the Dwarf Slayers.
Yeah.
And then someone said, "Oh, the blood." I wanted to get all of them, and I got most of them. And then someone goes, "Oh, Blood Bowls, there's 2 Slayers in there." So I got a box of Blood Bowl drawers. And then that's eventually they had a league.
Was it kind of like the whole, I like playing tabletop games, but I don't want armies?
I don't know. I don't even remember. But yeah. And then, so I got the dwarf army. Somebody was selling it, and it was like, "Oh, this is a great get in." And then it kind of went from there, snowballed from there. And then 40K came a little later.
Yeah, those bazaars were pretty bizarre, so to speak. I remember buying, because employees of Games Workshop would sell stuff there at a huge discount because they got an even huger discount. Because they were paying, like, if you bought metal, they were paying by the ounce.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
bits were amazing deals for them.
Yeah, depending on what you bought, it got to like close to 90% off. For something, for like bits, because you know, bits were overpriced in the catalog. For regular dudes, like 60-70% off though. I remember buying like all those old Wolfen from Joe Crone.
Yeah.
And like all kinds of crazy deal, old Noise Marines. And so that's so when that happened, Mike, you were kind of not really playing a lot of GW games. You really got into Blood Bowl and then Warhammer from there.
Yeah.
So that was after Blood Bowl. That was 3rd edition Blood Bowl, right?
3rd to 4th. Yeah, I learned with 3rd, and then when 4th came out. And okay. Yeah, because there were already block dice and the normal turnovers, all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
So getting into those kind of games, I mean, going from you still probably played D&D and role-playing games and other stuff too, right?
Yeah, but we weren't using miniatures then, but
No, man, okay.
Yeah.
Figured I'm just playing, at that point too, there's, more companies than Games Workshop. Well,
I don't think I used miniatures in D&D till 3rd edition.
Just for, even for like, just like a battle where you want to.
No, we just kind of said what we were going to do.
Yeah.
But again, that's also when I started playing with Todd, and it soon became the best part of D&D, which is single player miniature tactical combat game.
And then you go and get drunk and stumble home.
Yeah.
Right, which, you don't have to roll for anything either. You just automatically fail.
Yep.
So at that point, Mike, is this is probably mid or early 2000s then?
Yeah.
Who were you playing Blood Bowl with back then? Was that before Phil and everybody?
Yeah, this was there was a league at it's called Gameopolis. It was in Lansing, Illinois. And so I was playing with those guys. And then at the bunker, Dean put up that sign because I think I had moved or something like that. And that's how I met all you guys was.
Wow.
Yeah.
So all because of Dean's sign.
All because of Dean's sign. And again, the Avatar 666 at.
Right. Oh, full circle. You might get that Satanism you were looking for.
Yeah, exactly.
you were like, kind of probably a little bummed out. Like, it's like the one that got away, if you will. Like I never got the true dark magic taught to me. And you're thinking, you know what? What do I have to lose? Let's call this number. It was this before or after you went to that kid's house and talked to his mom?
Oh, I totally forgot about the Vor thing. Yeah.
Was it before or after that?
No,
before
we were playing Vor at Gameopolis. So that was that would be like 03.
So you didn't learn your lesson from calling random phone numbers on a wall?
No.
Okay. That was like, I already talked to a kid's mom and I'm, probably on some kind of like, pedophile list. But you know what?
Did you show up at the door with a 4-pack of wine coolers? Feel really awkward.
Let's call this Satan guy and see what happens. No, that's great. Was that so? The bunker, was it a sign at the bunker then, or was it?
Yeah.
Okay. That must have been right when the bunker opened.
Yeah, it was. Okay. Yeah.
Because you didn't. Yeah, for some reason I was thinking you played a Crooked Hat with us, but you didn't.
No, I only went to Crooked Hat once, and that was after when they were having a closing sale. So
that was when you get some deals on some paintball guns too.
Yeah.
Although
I just learned that the first time I ever met Todd was because he was the shopping cart guy at one of the Bazaar of the Bazaars. Yeah.
Was he Sanford and Son before Sanford and Son?
No, he just had the shopping cart full of.
Oh, literally a shopping cart.
Yeah, he literally had a shopping cart full of miniatures that he from Crooked Hat when it was closing, and I was digging through it, and I didn't remember him when I eventually got Todd.
I don't remember that at all. I guess he must have, because I know that he was not happy when the bunker opened.
Oh yeah,
intense competition, and then it's like, fuck it, I'm done. Let's just use them. If you can't, like the old saying, if you can't beat them, bring a shopping cart there. That's the old saying. So at that point, yeah, the rest is kind of history. People know about you from there.
Yeah.
Still, at that point, you played everything for miniatures. Because not just Games Workshop, a little bit of everything. Going from there, but yeah, I think it kind of makes sense too, with like the fact that people do know you from a lot of Blood Bowl contacts, a big part of it. But then you have your old school, acquaintances too. Biran, was it you that said like every weirdo gamer on Facebook is like connected to Mike? Was that?
Whenever I see what looks like someone from the shallow end of the genetic pool, and I see two mutual friends, one's Todd, and one's Mike.
And then you keep scrolling at that point.
Yeah,
like,
I do a check every time. Like, what the hell's wrong with that guy's face? Oh, Todd and Mike.
Yeah, because they usually give you one icon. They'll show you, and it's either Todd or Mike.
Yep. And then I'll hover over it, and it'll say Todd Warren.
Right. Then at that point, it becomes almost that you can't not check to see if the other one is also, because then it becomes. I mean, to be fair, if it's like only Mike, you're like, what's wrong with you, Todd? Like, why don't you like him?
Did this guy get pissed off at you at the store because you wouldn't give him premium trade on something?
Yeah, because when you had that dollar sign that floated above their head, like in video games, to see what player they are, there's like a dollar sign with a number, and that was like single digits to the left of the decimal. Like, fuck that guy. You know what I mean? He's worth less than $10.
Mm-hmm.
So, very cool. I think anything else on your story, Mike? So that brings us to probably when a lot of people knew you. So we could probably end your first part of the story. It reminds me of like when I read I think it was Jericho's first book. The end of the last page of the book was his debut in WWE. It's like, whoa, that was just that? Like, man, like the end of the book is actually the beginning. So we'll leave it at that, because at some point maybe we'll crack open a new chapter for you that takes you from whatever 04 to present day.
We'll do that as a tribute episode when you die.
Biran, we've done tribute episodes just when somebody can't make it.
Oh,
it's not a death thing. Mike has to stay late. He's got a fucking inventory the Bunsen burners. He can't make it on, and so we'll just do. I believe it would be a VAE, a Valdric appreciation episode, a VAE, if you will. Then we'll talk about that. You don't have to wait for him to die.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's just. I mean. It's not a rule, it's just a precedent, if you will. Biran, you're next oldest. Why don't we go with your story?
Mine was third grade, so it was the early 80s, Dungeons and Dragons.
Okay.
I had no idea what I was doing, so I was really young.
That's extremely. So who had the older brother that got you into it?
Oh, my older brother is definitely not into that. No, it was the smartest kid in school, this guy, Scott Daniels. I palled up with him and he played. I had no idea what I was doing or anything like that. And then fun fact, later he became a drama kid and I called him Butt Pirate. And that's his high school. And then after high school, I felt bad and saw him at Denny's and sat down in his booth and apologized.
And he said,
and now we're friends on Facebook and he's a cruiser.
He said, hey, I'm Brian Thompson. Do you remember me? And he said, yeah, I'm Butt Pirates. Remember me? And you're like, oh shit.
I did. I apologize.
I forgot about that day. And he's like, let me buy you a moon over my hammy. And we'll call it even.
I believe after the talk at Denny's, he took out his little list and crossed my name out. Don't have to kill him.
Why did you call him Butt Pirate? Why? Because
I was a high school punk.
Okay.
But that is also funny because that is when I got reintroduced to Dungeons and Dragons. Is high school, and I played all through high school, and it was awful.
I just think that third grade seems so young without somebody influencing you older.
Scott Daniels was far smarter than he had reason to be at that age, so I think that's why.
Okay.
I don't think any of us knew what we were doing, but I
Is
liked
Scott
it.
Daniels going to watch this episode?
I don't know. I'm friends with him on Facebook, so maybe.
Okay, maybe we'll
If you're
tag
listening,
him in.
Scott, again, I apologize for being a homophobic asshole. I think he's married now to a woman, so maybe it was an incorrect homophobia.
Okay. I think the only way to really make it fair is for you to play an actual butt pirate character
Yeah.
in a game. Like that's the only way.
But then the next major game event was 1988. I
So
played
88, you're in high school?
yes.
Okay. And you're
Freshman year, it was Battletech, as a lot of
Oh.
people. A friend of mine, Jim Galvin, who has passed away, but his brother got us in, his older brother got us into it. With miniatures, the pewter miniatures. And I wish I knew what game store we went to, but they had a back room for gaming and they had a ping pong table set up. And he had this big foam core on top of it, and then all these little hexes carved out of foam, so you can make hex-shaped hills and mountains to play on. It was
he
great.
he cut out hexes so you can stack.
Yeah. So you
That's
could do
cool.
like elevation 1, 2, 3, 4, and then he had blue hexes for water. And
You know what's crazy is like you guys both played Battletech, but I mean, I'm a little younger, but my only knowledge of Battletech was the pods to sit in.
Yeah.
For real life.
Yeah.
I had no idea that it was a tabletop
It's-
game. So
people
Much
my
like-
age and older, it's so many of their first real war game that they
is
ever
that
played.
why? I mean, it kind of was re-released. We did an episode on it.
Yep.
Is that why there's a little bit of that like nostalgia? Like I
It's-
want to
yeah,
get
it's
that.
huge nostalgia.
Oh yeah.
And also the older brother painted all my mechs for me. So that was a lot of fun.
Nice. Extreme, what were you saying?
My only knowledge of it growing up was the cartoon and then Exo Squad as well, but I didn't know anything about the game.
That is also where I purchased my first Warhammer miniature. I bought a Beaky Marine in a blister pack.
Yeah. Let me do a quick side note. Mike, what was your first Warhammer model you bought?
You said Chaos Space Marine.
Yeah, it was an actual Warhammer.
was-
I didn't know it was that. I went to a store in Champaign and they were goofy looking stuff. I was like,
So-
oh, that'll be fun.
Based on the age, I'm going to guess that this was back when Chaos Marines were, they were all mutating looking. So
Yeah.
like the arm went into the gun. And it was like all one, like your
Oh
arm,
yeah.
your arm became the gun. And then, and in fact, they were all very much back then Chaos God-esque, where there was no undivided. This was all, no. Every model is going to look warped and fucked up, right? Back
Yeah.
then, so. No,
They were
Biran, you-
noise Marines too. So
yeah, noise Marines, I remember. And then the Zinch guys looked really cool. One guy, I remember I had one Zinch Marine and the head was in the chest.
yeah.
It was pretty great.
That's how all the orcs are.
That's true. Yeah. There was that one recent, like a Forge World Space Marine, a Chaos Marine recently, where like there's like and I think we made a post, it was like cool shirt, and it was just because it was a head, but like, flayed into the armor there. So, Biran,
I would like to make a battalion of Noise Marines.
oh,
Noise.
Noise Marines. Wow. I'm shocked that's not a thing already.
Yeah.
69th Legion.
Yes, 69th Legion, Noise Marines.
But then in high school, it was D&D and Battletech.
Mhm.
And then college, I got into Magic the Gathering, I'm sad to say.
Why
Wish I
sad?
had all those cards still.
Yeah.
Or even
Why
better,
is
unopened.
that's not sad though. I mean, you wanted to, I mean, it was a competitive, game that everyone was playing back then.
Yeah. And this is, I want to say 2000. No, not 2000, 1994.
Yeah,
Hey,
that's about when Magic. Yeah.
I'm guessing it was when they used to run these commercials that made it look like the coolest thing ever.
They
Where,
didn't
like,
have
the-
commercials when I played it.
Oh, okay. So when I didn't really get into magic, but I had friends and I remember watching TV and there's like a commercial and it's like an orc jumps out of the card,
Mhm.
like, can I play or whatever he says. And it's, it made it look pretty fucking badass.
This is
And then
when you
you
get
go
a
there-
booster pack and you could get fucked and get like 3 land cards in it.
I don't even know what that is. So you're at that point, Biran, you're playing Magic. Are you also still playing like D&D and those kind of
No,
games too?
no, all throughout college, I didn't play any D&D, just Magic, and not even that religiously or anything like that. And then that went on to my first job out of college. We used to sit in the server room at Motorola playing Magic because no one could get in there. So we just play all day.
Wow.
So it was fun. It wasn't until I wandered over to Crooked Hat Games when it first opened, that was like 100 yards from my door.
Can I ask what Motorola's status is right now as a company?
There are when I was there, it was 120,000 employees worldwide.
Mhm.
I think they're down to about 2,000.
Is there any truth to if my guys were more productive in the server room, we might still be relevant today?
Yes. I was the reason.
Okay. I just
No,
want
it
to
was
make
because
sure
they were late to the digital party and cell phones is what kind of
Yeah.
sealed their fate.
They're like, you know what? We're going to be fine. We're going to ride this pager thing out. We're going to be fine, you guys.
Yep.
And you know what? And I can tell we're going to be the CEOs. I can tell we're going to be fine because my guys are so ahead of the game. They're playing cards back there. And you're like, it's not even cards, it's magic. You know, he thinks you're playing poker. And meanwhile, you brought the company down.
Yep. And then, so when
Crooked Hat.
Crooked Hat opened, I went there and Todd was in his salesman mode and he sold me on Battlefleet Gothic.
You didn't know Todd before that?
No.
So at that point, were you, I mean, because you were off games, right?
Yep.
And you just, what is this place? And you were like, I want to get back in.
I was always game curious because I always liked Dungeons and Dragons, and I remember seeing Blood Bowl at Moondog's Comics and going, that looks awesome, but I bet it's too hard.
Yeah.
And I was right.
Right,
It's too
yeah.
hard.
Still is. Same rules. Okay, so
But I walked in and Todd's, it was the first time I saw a store like that, was just gaming tables from front to back and just miniatures everywhere.
yeah, because before that, I mean, when you go to a hobby store, you see some miniatures, models, you know, like fucking rockets and shit.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like it's almost like when you go to a hobby store, there's a section for gaming, but at no point is the intention to play there. It's just,
Right.
that's where
Yeah.
you get some stuff and you go home and you go in the, basement or whatever. This is a store only for this. So it probably blew your mind a little bit, right?
Yeah, and Todd was telling me, he's like, well, what do you, he didn't do the GW, like, what games you play, bro? I'm
Yeah,
like,
and you
well,
go-
I'm a little intimidated. I don't want to, I see these big armies. I don't know if I'll ever do that. He's like, well, here's a game that's, you only need a handful of miniatures and they're easy to paint because they're spaceships.
Oh, and it was Battlefleet Gothic. you
Yeah.
said.
So I got into that and we played like 3 campaigns of that. Had a lot
I
of
mean,
fun.
you said he wasn't really in like super salesy, but I mean,
Oh,
that
he
was
was
a-
salesman, but he was
right,
pushy.
because that was a I don't want to say a big release then, but it was when
Mhm.
it came out, it was a big push. Because everyone I knew that played other GW games, we all tried Battlefleet Gothic too.
Yeah, I think it was like the box was probably $80, which it would probably be $180 today.
It would probably be close to 200 now
Yeah.
with maybe 4 ships in it.
Yeah, and it was a good start. It was actually a good 2-player starter.
Yeah.
Not enough to.
Well, it was all plastic, which
Yep.
was huge for that game because when you went to the shelf, like I want to add, kind of like Mike, you're saying when you lose a game, I don't have enough cool stuff. Go to the shelf, buy more stuff.
Yep.
Well, when you bought the new stuff, it's all these big chunks of metal.
Oh my god, that was the worst.
This-
And it would be on a flying base, and you'd have a battle barge, and it would break off the flying base no matter what you did.
Yeah, we started to just put 2 flying bases. So
Yeah.
forget the hole in the middle. We basically made our own holes, if you will.
We had this
And-
jackass who played in one of our campaigns. Necron Steve was his name,
Hmm.
and he refused to glue his ships to the flying base. So, and facing was huge in that game.
Wait, so we
Yeah.
just left them on the map?
Yeah, so
table?
they would spin like a basketball on your finger. I'm like, you can't. Your facing changes when you bump it, and facing mattered greatly in that game.
was not heights. Wasn't there also
Altitude didn't matter. No.
altitude? Okay,
No.
for some reason I was thinking okay. But yeah,
'Cause
that seems-
you had front on, you had side for your, you give your broadsides or whatever.
Broadsides, yeah.
I mean, I would say all of his ships are already floating in space, and clearly they lost control of them.
Yeah.
He's out.
Spinning wildly.
Yeah, he's out already. So at that point, you're playing Battlefleet Gothic. You're befriending Todd Warren, Thad
Mhm.
Warner.
I don't even know if he played in the campaign. He liked to play
No.
matchmaker back then.
Yeah, well, he's there to sell some
Yeah.
product, and so if he's playing at a table, he can't greet people.
Yep.
One
Keep
of
an
my
eye on the
favorite
kids
Todd-
that were stealing magic.
Yeah.
Stealing all the model kits.
one of my favorite Todd greetings from the Crooked Hat days, which he probably still uses today, is kid's mom or dad comes in looking for video games because they crack open the old phone book and they say,
Yep. Games.
Crooked Hat Games. Like, do you have Fantasy Star 6? No, we only have fun games here, ma'am.
Mm-hmm.
And he was so like smarmy, or not smart.
These have the best graphics ever. The graphics of your imagination.
Yeah. But like, I loved it because he thought those burns would go over so well. And like, there was no audience. We were in the middle playing games, but we heard it. But it's
and
like,
appreciated it.
Right. It's like, once again, another clerk's about Randall insulting the customers. Like, well,
they weren't going to buy anything anyway.
Right. They're going to go to a store and drop 500. And we're going to sit here and play with our fucking broken Battlefleet Gothic ships. So
Yep.
Who's the loser here is what I want. So, Biran, you're playing.
And that's
BFG.
when I got sucked into D&D again with Adrian and Todd and a couple others.
Because
we played every weekend for like 4 years straight.
He kept the store open late, right?
Yeah, he would let us drink.
I was gonna say that's when your alcoholism really kicked in.
That's when it kicked in. It was we play Friday night, but then Friday Night Magic Kids would hang around after closing. I'm like, Todd, I'm getting my shakes. I wanted to start drinking. And that's when he pulled up his cup. He's like, I've been drinking since 3.
Right. He's like, I've been drinking since yesterday.
He's got his Fredo's cup full of Captain Morgan.
Friday Night Magic was a thing back then?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Wow. For some reason I thought that was much later, the competitive.
No,
side.
I used to love it when Todd would catch people shoplifting.
What did he do?
Oh, he would just grab them at the door and say, "Give me all your shit," and then threaten to call the cops.
He would like literally grab them.
I think so. Yeah.
Oh.
I don't think he ever called the cops on them.
No, he just said like,
put it back.
Never come here again.
No, because they still bought stuff occasionally. So
that's a good point. I mean, a thief who also buys stuff just needs to maybe, have a couple of stern talks.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to lose a potential
And
customer.
I think one of the kids that stole stuff ended up getting a job at the bunker.
And then maybe Grognard later on? Or
No. But I still remember this day how I would go in, it would be Howie there, and I'd be shooting the shit with Howie. And then someone goes, Todd here? And Howie would go, nope, just me today. And he would put the thing back on the shelf and leave. Like he wanted Todd cred.
They want that Todd cred.
Oh, I thought it was like somebody who said, I'm not going to steal because Howie's here. Like this dude's got a choppa. He'll kill me.
It'll probably use it. No, people didn't want to buy because they don't feel they got credit for it.
Wow. Did you know that when I started going to Crooked Hat, I thought Howie, it was Todd's store, right? Were they partners?
They're partners.
Okay. I thought Howie was like the sole boss and Todd was like his employee. Like, I didn't know it was I just thought it was like, look at this guy. He like an orc war boss.
I used to go to the Hat every day because I would just walk over there and I'd hang out with Howie and see him fume at the Mech Warrior guys. That was Thursday night, I think was Mech Warrior, the click game.
Yeah.
Not Battletech, but Mech Warrior.
Oh, wow.
They
Yeah.
were terrible.
Wow. So at that point, you're playing D&D, getting drunk, no more magic, right? That's over.
Nope. That was, for that time. Yep.
Are you then getting into Warhammer or that's not so?
Yeah. I actually bought a Chaos fantasy army.
Okay.
And I played fantasy more than, I didn't really seriously pay 40K until I started playing with you guys.
Okay.
Like I had a Tau army that I never played.
Yeah. Well,
and we played the Lord of the Rings game that came out.
Yeah, because Todd was really into that, right?
Yeah.
That was something too that I remember. I never got into it, but it seemed like there was just a nonstop stream of releases. So every time
a movie came out, a new box came.
Yeah, but every time you think like, okay, because we knew back then you have fantasy and 40K and everything else is side games. We knew back then those product life cycles, they are what they are. You might get a supplement, you might not. Lord of the Rings always seemed that like not that we wanted it to fail, obviously, but it was, but it was just the idea of like, I can't believe it's still going. And I'm happy about it. But they had every movie, new stuff. White Dwarf continued to have scenarios and other things. Because then, didn't they revive it for the 3 new movies, the Hobbit movies?
The Hobbit had a box set.
At least the Hobbit, maybe.
Yeah,
I think they probably did one for each movie.
And then they had War of the Rings in between there, which was their mass battle
Oh,
yeah,
I
and
guess
they
'cause-
keep releasing stuff for it still. to
And they
this day.
also had the 10 mil. They had the War Master, the Battle of Five Armies too. So
Yeah. No, I thought that was great. And Biran, we had a discussion before the recording about the live by the license, die by the license.
They've hung
this
on to
always-
it. Yeah.
I really never gave it a thought to get into it because it's a fucking promotional release.
Yeah.
I didn't really think about it. And then I was like, I can't believe it's still around. It's like lasting longer than editions of the main games that they're, those are cycling through new codexes, new army books, and Lord of the Rings is probably the same rules most of the time for that game.
We even played a little bit of that D&D miniatures game. Do you remember that when they started releasing the blind boxes of D&D miniatures?
Those were they had like the little like rubber.
Yeah,
plastic.
they were really poorly painted little rubber ones.
But they were trying to get some of that miniature, right? People.
Yeah, they had a battle game for it, but they were also great because they were good for D&D.
Yeah.
They had everything basically.
I think those came out, and then like Star Wars miniatures came out. Remember those? And so I was collecting those too, and we were using them for Star Wars role playing game as well. So I think that was the idea of, and it's smart if you think about it. If you notice that Warhammer is getting popular, what if we slide in with pre-painted, not this quality, but who cares? It's still better than nothing at all. That was getting pretty popular though at the time.
I still have a giant like toolbox full of those D&D miniatures.
Yeah. Well, rest assured they're worth nothing.
Yes.
So
probably worth more than Mage Knight.
Yeah, probably. Not a lot more though.
Well, because people would use them in D&D because they're this.
Yeah.
But yeah, we played a lot of 3.0, D&D 3.0 and 3.5. And then we moved to Pathfinder. And that's about when I started getting into Warhammer with you guys. Actually, that's first we got into Mantic. That's how I got introduced to you guys.
Yeah. So Biran, that's interesting. If you can kind of like, because Mike sort of ended with the, I found, Dean's flyer and kind of got in. What's your sort of how I got
Mine
into
was
this?
Jose was telling me about Dreadball and how it's a really cool, fast playing game. And I was at a DepthCon and I picked it up. And then I also picked up the Kickstarter box of Dead Zone, that same con.
Yeah.
And that's when I hooked up with you guys via Jose to play at Gaming Goat to play Dreadball.
Yeah. Todd, I remember Todd, like, he had to like preface meeting you.
Yeah.
Like saying,
He had to warn you.
Like you're weird or like does not play well. Like I remember he had a whole, I'm thinking like, am I meeting like a
serial killer?
Is this some like Weapon X? Like what? Like he's got these like list of like, don't look him in the eye, don't do this, all these rules, and I'm like, what the fuck are we about to like walk into here? Because Todd started to play Dreadball, but like he brought his Blood Bowl guys or something, and I was just like, I don't even know what's going on here at that point. He brought like his Bears Blood Bowl team or something. So at that point, you got into the Mantic games. Did you know at that time that it was like we're playing the competitor? Like did you have any idea?
It never even occurred to me.
Okay. Like I'm joining a alt. I'm the
Sega Master System kid.
Right. Like
Yeah.
you didn't know. Like you didn't know you're joining the second.
Right.
Like
Second tier. Yeah. I didn't know there were tiers.
Yeah. And then did we start playing a Gaming Goat right away?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's where I met Mike and you and Sarlo
Yeah.
and Dean, I think, played in that first one too.
Dean was in Dreadball too. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Josh was
Josh
there.
Aldis, X-Wing pilot 69 Snow.
Yeah. Did he kick your ass in the first game?
No, the first game was with Todd and we both didn't know what we were doing.
Okay.
I think I didn't know what I was doing until about the fourth game. So he probably did.
Yeah. Actually, I remember Josh getting frustrated with Dreadball because he took orcs. And
and they were
really-
I started with orcs as well. And I'm
they were
these
hard to
guys
play.
suck.
He regretted that big time because he was coming from, Skaven and Blood Bowl where he could do whatever he wants. He goes to Dreadball. He's like, these guys fucking suck.
Yeah, I switched halfway through our league to Void Sirens.
Yeah. I played the Forge Fathers just to prove
Yeah.
that you can get some wins with them. And I
Not
did
many,
okay.
but you can get
Not many, but I maybe 500.
basically anyone that doesn't have a striker, it just sucked. It just wasn't
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. So, and then obviously from there, the rest is becoming
It's history.
history there. Okay. Xtreme, do you want to go next or do you want me to?
I don't care. I can go next.
Okay.
So I have like a prelude to my story before, because I think my journey was a little more direct. But growing up, like when I was younger, up to middle school age, we never really had any money, so I made a lot of my own games, but I wasn't doing it because I thought I could make the game better or whatever. It was more out of necessity. So I would like go to garage sales and buy cheap board games and stuff, and then go home and find out it sucked and make a better version of it.
Mhm.
So there's one that I really remember that was a Marvel game, and we got it, and it was just like super basic. But then I ended up making like stats for the heroes and the villains, and made it this cool game. And my brother and I played the crap out of that, out of my version of that. But
Is this Taylor?
yes,
Yeah, Xtreme has
Um,
one brother.
Okay.
It's not like John who has these mystery.
Yeah, that I learn about every day. It's like, what?
Mystery siblings.
Yeah, well, there's Dean, and then there's these other two.
So
That,
there's Dan and Tina. So
Yeah.
those, and they're not going to play these games or ever watch this. So, yeah, I think that's kind of weird. I mean,
I always forget you've got other siblings other than Dean.
yeah, but
yeah,
but in this world they don't really exist. You know what I mean? Because it's like like if you do a certain thing in your family and everyone doesn't, like Xtreme, you have a sister, but I haven't met her.
What?
yeah.
So, but she doesn't. Xtreme, has she ever played Blood Bowl?
No.
Never.
No.
Not even
That
as
would
a
not be-
goof.
no, I don't even think she'd be interested as a goof.
Okay. Even just to make fun of you later on?
We need
No.
we need Dan and Brian's sister to play Blood Bowl against each other.
Yeah. It won't happen. Yeah.
Good luck.
So Xtreme, you're buying board games, and especially like the Marvel one. Do you remember what that was called or no?
I don't. I know I looked it up a few years ago just to try to find the rules for it. And as I was like reading through the stuff, I think it was on Board Game Geek, I found it. And I was like, man, like my version of this game was so much different. I would have to sit down and start all over again. Like it's not even worth buying this cheap, crappy game.
Was the original game one of those where it could have been anything that just skinned Marvel?
Just skinned with Marvel, yeah.
Pretty much. It was like you got in a van, I think, and you went around the board. And when you hit on certain squares, you would fight the villain that was in the middle. And there was like a team of villains.
Because
Is it like
obviously-
cardboard standees for the guys?
Everything was cards, but the cards had like nothing on them. It was like the
'Cause obviously-
villain and maybe like one number.
all my favorite Marvel stories involved driving a van around too.
Punisher.
Right.
Punisher had a van.
Yeah.
That's it. So at that point, Xtreme, you're realizing like, I like the idea of tabletop games, but these fucking suck.
Yeah, I don't even know if I was really considering it like tabletop games. I don't know if I was aware that people like played, like there was gaming. I was just something I did to pass the time. But then like I would also like have all my baseball cards and basketball cards and stuff. I'd make games with those and I'd play those for hours. And then,
Were you homeschooled?
No.
Because that's the weirdo activity I picture a homeschooler doing.
no, there's a little, I don't know, spectrum type of
Yeah,
mentality to
yeah. Glassy-eyed stare. Were you really good at spelling?
it. No.
Okay.
No, but he likes writing
It's good at
stats.
math. Yeah,
Xtreme is a stats man. We all know this.
That's the math.
At that point, are you doing things like if like a baseball player has like he's batting 287, like does that do a thing in the game, like certain things succeed, right?
Yeah, so like you would have build teams, and each position would have a different stat that they focused on. So then you'd have to build a well-rounded lineup to combat the other team's well-rounded lineup. It was a whole thing, but
You're basically
spent-
playing rotisserie baseball league, but
yeah,
you're
sort of. I mean, it was a few years after that, probably my grandfather was playing rotisserie baseball like by mail still. And
That
it was
sounds
like,
delicious.
yeah, good.
But so I was playing those games and like making my own games, and I didn't realize there was like gaming I don't think. But then in middle school, I had a shop teacher who had just gotten into 40K. So he was in that prime stage of like super excited about the game, and he was buying everything because.
How did you know? Like, I think back to, like, I don't know what my teachers did for hobbies.
Was this high school or junior high shop?
This was junior high, and the reason I know is because he brought it into class, and then there was a.
Did he tell you the kids in France drink wine?
Yeah, he said we're going to play Tarzan.
There's an industrial technologies club after school, but it was a thinly veiled 40K club.
Slash boy rape.
Yeah. Well, so a couple of things I remember most from it, like that was my first experience of like miniature games, and it was super exciting. I still didn't own any of my own, but I had all of my teachers' toys to play with because he went crazy and was like tons of armies. But he built this table that looked phenomenal. It's probably like 16 by 8. It was just huge.
All using state funds, baby.
Yeah. But it had like this big overpass, and it had like part of the overpass had fallen down. Now looking back on it, I'm like, that's stupid. No one's ever going to take 4 turns to climb up the overpass to get in a place to shoot. Like
it sounded good on paper. You know,
it looks good, but shit to play on.
Right. But one of the other things I remember is like during one of the club nights, like he had a massive army of gene stealers, and there was probably 20, 25 kids there. And it was like sweatshop painting, passing around. Like each person had their own station. You had a brush, you had one color, and you had one part of the model you
pass it on.
So I remember it. Yeah, I painted gene stealer tongues all night long, just passed it along.
That sounds like something Mike would do with his students.
This is also, I mean, in a weird way, this has got like a Karate Kid kind of thing going on too. Like he's teaching you things.
Prime the model.
Right, yeah.
Watch
exactly.
the model.
What is it? Like, you know,
Zenithal
prime. And you're like, you know, and you're learning things as you're painting. Except I don't know what you learn, but
yeah, nothing. But by the end of that day, he had a fully painted gene stealer army. So good for him. Meanwhile,
you show up to class and the corner shelf still isn't done. Still working on that knife holder, Mom. I said I was going to make you a knife holder, and guess what? We didn't get to it because I'm painting Steeler arms.
So I know, like he made photocopies of like basic rules. This was the edition that had the single post correction. So I don't know what
second edition 40K.
Second edition. So I remember we like did some squad based. We played very little. I don't know. It just had more of an impact of being introduced to this thing more than anything else. I didn't own any models at this time.
The miserable of painting an entire army.
Yeah, and also, you know, he thinks he's doing a good thing. I'm going to teach these kids the right way. You build, you paint, and then eventually you play. It's like, no, listen, we don't do that. We play.
I don't think that's what he was doing. I think he knew exactly what he was doing. He was using the kids to get his army painted.
Wow. I mean, to be fair, would you rather be a sweatshop painter or molested? You know what I mean? It's like,
why not both?
Yeah.
I'm just saying, Biran probably has stories about his industrial arts teacher too. You know,
I took home ec.
Oh, okay. So, Xtreme, you're basically painting and you're building armies. Did this club ever really get into gaming or no?
Not really. I think somebody played a game, but I don't think really wasn't much going on there. But we had these photocopied rules, so then I got to take this, I don't know, small folder of photocopied rules home, and that like introduced me to this whole new world of, oh wow, there's these cool rules you could play with stuff. So I was playing with, I think, plastic army men and just whatever bullshit I had around using the rules for that.
Even then, did you hate how long it took to kill something?
I mean, it was all new at that point, so I think I was fine.
You know, the bazooka guy, you know, he only fails on snake eyes. So, you know, he's like a Terminator back then, and they never died. Did Taylor play too then or no?
At that point, he was still too young. He played the games that I was making up, but I think I tried to play that with him, but I didn't really know what I was doing. And
is that why you have a strange relationship now?
That was it's a built-in strangeness.
How much age difference is there between you and Taylor?
7 years.
Oh, that's not too bad. All right.
So around that same time, I had a new friend that played D&D and was a gamer and stuff, and he had like one squad of Space Marines, and I ended up getting one box of Gene Stealers, and we played some makeshift games with that. And then it was probably the following year after that that I had a different friend that would yeah, it's crazy. He used to get he had a White Dwarf subscription, so he would bring it in, and I would read that during Latin class every month when he brought it in.
During what class?
Latin.
Latin.
Yeah.
You go to a private school?
Go to a fancy school.
It was in Virginia. It was a really big school.
So
yeah.
Mike has found porn. You have like found dwarf, basically. So he's like 20 paces forward, and you'll find like a hustler, whereas you find like, hey, movie Marines issue of White Dwarf. Holy shit.
Oh, demonettes. They might only have one boob, but that's enough.
And the early ones weren't even like feminine, so you can get away with that. It wasn't until later on they were like, let's make them hot.
Yeah.
The early ones were nasty. So Xtreme, somebody had a White Dwarf. At that point, is it become like a, I mean, because are you still doing the club with the teacher or no?
No, at that point I wasn't. And I still only own this one box of Gene Stealers at this point. But the White Dwarf story leads to where the beginning of me becoming a gamer, because this was the time where 3rd edition Blood Bowl was being released. And I saw the first article for that. I was like, this is my game. This is the game that I want to play.
Was it the article titled Block and Tackle or something like that? Like
that was one of the early ones.
Yeah. I remember that. Because I remember seeing those, like, they're actually going to talk about Blood Bowl in White Dwarf. It was like insane to me and the guys I was playing with. It was like, we don't understand. We're supposed to be the game on the side that nobody talks about. And they were having articles after like a Space Marine thing. And it was crazy to see like strategies. We're like,
there was quite a bit of
what's the cage?
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry, Xtreme, what were you saying?
There was quite a bit of Blood Bowl content during that time in the White Dwarf.
There was.
But it was, so that following summer, we moved to Indiana, and I had a summer job and saved all my money up and went to the game store and bought the Blood Bowl Death Zone and the Chaos All-Star team.
What was your summer job?
I was working at a concession stand at a Little League.
So big bucks.
Yeah.
Well, and
hot dogs.
Yeah, and all the nachos you can shove in your face.
Yeah,
so.
there was all the candy bars and everything. It was great.
Is it still the favorite job you ever had?
No.
Mine's cashier at Dominic's.
Now, I would say Xtreme's favorite job has to be movie theater.
It is.
Has to be. Yeah. Concession's probably close second, though.
Yeah, if movie theaters paid anything decent, I would probably still be working in movie theater.
There was a time where projectionists got real money.
Oh yeah, when they were unionized. Yeah.
And then that got busted, and now it's some pimply kid making $8 an hour.
Yeah.
Well, there was
now it's nobody.
Right.
Digital.
That was it's kind of funny. So like with you, Xtreme, and then like Josh Aldis, he was projectionist and then went digital, kind of was it. And then this guy I used to work with, this guy Ryan, he basically wanted to keep doing it. He bought, I don't know how he did it. He grew up in a small town in Colorado. He bought a movie theater, like it was going to be just done anyway. And he kind of learned, it's crazy. Think like somebody at whatever he was at the time, maybe like 21, and doing that obviously couldn't really sustain itself, but it was in a weird way. It was like a way to keep it going when they're being bought out or all digital, to have something become old school,
Yeah.
The guy who owned the comic store I used to go to when I was a kid was a projectionist. And we're talking about how you when you're independently wealthy, you can do this stuff. Mm-hmm. He ran Paperback Peddler because he had this sweet job, that was at night, so he could run the store during the day, made a crap ton of money pushing a button.
Yeah, sweet.
There's more to it than pushing a button. It's
I
the
know.
art form.
No, the old
like to, because he would just get furious if anyone assumed that this wasn't a, like, you have surgeons and then you've got projectionists
Yeah,
just
he's a
underneath it with the
craftsman.
type of technical skill you need, you know?
Well, my
Yeah.
buddy in college who worked in theater, like he was paid shit, but he was also the projectionist. Like he had to splice film and shit. He had to know how to do all that. Now they don't have to worry about it.
So Xtreme, you got a poor salary, but first dibs on the movie posters, correct?
Yeah, I worked at a lot of movie theaters. I worked at 4 different movie theaters. I was a manager for a while, as a projectionist several times.
Yeah.
And they're
Yeah,
the good
I
movie
was-
posters that are in reverse on the other side, right?
Those are 1 sheets, and
Oh.
that would be all the ones I had access to.
Were they that way because they were in a light box?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I had a few of those. My buddy who worked in the theater would give them to me. Those are cool.
Yeah, I used to have a huge collection of different 1 sheets and Mylars and banners and all kinds of stuff. I think I threw most of it away, but
Well, let's bring it back to a positive note. So you got into, so you're actually able to afford games.
Yep. So I bought Blood Bowl, Death Zone, and the Chaos Team. At that time, when we first moved here, we were living with my cousin for a little bit until we found a place to live. And I taught him how to play Blood Bowl from the best that I gathered from the game. And I taught my little brother, who was still pretty young for the game then, and the 3 of us played together by the rules that I understoed them.
For the most part, you got it right. Unlimited
most
passing range.
Unlimited
Because
passing, yeah, long bomb.
because you're thinking there's this template, and I would think most people would assume the template is the template. So the end would be the end. You were probably thinking this is a guideline at best.
It was like, yeah, I thought maybe there was like an arrow on the end that just pointed off into the distance.
Like it's just forever. you know?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess like a field goal. So in football, what happens when it's above the upright? Still counts.
It's an imaginary line that just continues. Yeah.
So you're not totally insane, Xtreme.
No.
You just fucked up a little bit, no big deal. We all fuck up a little bit.
And I imagine the
So-
rules were very poorly written back then.
Actually, they weren't. I mean, they were. The great thing with that version of Blood Bowl is because you have the block dice and you have the turnovers and you have squares. It was pretty concise as far as for me, So there wasn't really much on the arguing side ever. I would imagine something like that where it becomes, if no one ever tells you it's not unlimited, you just gloss over it because it could be. But as far as rules, it was for Games Workshop was pretty concise compared to their battle games, which, I mean, it was like choose your own adventure with the way things were written sometimes back then.
So the game store that I bought all that crap at ended up running a league, and that was my first experience playing other people. And I was playing the Chaos Team, and I bought like one of every starter player because I just wanted like one of each model. Looked cool. And like at that time, that was permanent on roster star players, and you could have more than one. So I was like playing against a Wood Elf team that had 3 deep roots, and like my plethora variety of Goblin star players on my Chaos team wasn't quite ideal. That's fine.
Were you painting
and-
back then or no?
Painting with testers at that time. So
The
I was,
right
I was
way.
putting color on models. Yeah.
Okay.
You just didn't know what color it was because of your disability.
Well,
No, but I really wish I still had my Minotaur because his skin tone came out fucking amazing.
yeah.
I don't know how it
Totally on
happened.
accident.
Yeah.
I mean, the Chaos Warriors in the team were all just metal. So, I mean, you can get away with anything on them. They were all like just a big chunk of armor.
But I would say from 94, probably for 10 years, I still wasn't really a gamer. I was just playing Blood Bowl. Like I didn't play any other games other than Blood Bowl.
Why do you make that
Um,
distinction? Because I would say playing Blood Bowl made you are a gamer, 100%.
Because it was so like I wasn't even looking at other games. Like I was so laser focused on this one game that sure I'm a gamer, but
Yeah.
this is the only
You
thing
know-
I've ever even looked at.
Again, that's key to being on the spectrum. Laser focused on one thing.
I think about what you just said, and now I'm thinking back to my old Blood Bowl leagues. We did actually have people in those leagues that would not call themselves a gamer. That those games are for dorks, but they played every week Blood Bowl. There was like,
I think
3
that's
of
common Blood Bowl though. A lot of Blood Bowl people. It's
yeah.
only
I
game
didn't
they
I
play.
didn't even think about that. Like I haven't thought about that in forever, but like
Scott
yeah,
and I-
Scott. Well, no, Scott played other stuff.
Oh, okay.
I had a few other friends that like we got into because we would like, you know, we'd hang out at the same comic store. We said, let's play this. And they're like, well, like it's very much I'll dip my toe in. I'm not doing all that shit.
I'm not getting into it.
Right. And so they didn't have any interest in it. We would try other things, but you're right. That now you think about it, like they're very much a Blood Bowl only, some of those
The
guys.
sports connection makes it somehow less
Sports
dorky.
connection for sure. Yeah.
Another reason I say that too, like, so after that league ended, leagues at game stores usually don't last very long. So that league ends, I move on. And for years, I was playing Blood Bowl against people I taught how to play the game. And I was providing all the models, everything. Like they just had to come to my house or apartment and play with me. So it was like my friend and a couple other friends and my brother would come over. And so that was all I played with, was people that I taught and supplied everything to for the game. So it wasn't really like, we weren't going out and gaming. We were just playing Blood Bowl.
So you never played like D&D or anything like that?
Well, once I played one game with that friend I mentioned that played D&D. I played one game with him, and it just was not something I was interested in.
Did you
I
think it
didn't
was too
like all the-
dorky?
No, I just wasn't into like the role playing. Like
Neither am I.
If we had used miniatures, maybe I would have been a little more into it, but
Mhm.
I don't know. But really, so I started going to tournaments, and after going to Gen Con twice, the second time I went to Gen Con, I started like, all right, I see all these other games here. I'm going to start exploring some other things, and that's when I would say I became like a gamer, because I was playing something other than Blood. But the only reason
Those
I
the
went to
Indiana Gen Cons.
yeah,
Okay.
so the 03 one I went to play Blood Bowl, and I walked around, but I wasn't really looking for anything. And then in 04, I was kind of
So
more open
when did
to-
Gen Con move to Indianapolis?
in 03.
Oh, that was the first year. Okay.
Yep.
And wasn't
and,
it Blood Bowl like in a different building?
No, it was upstairs. The Games Workshop had a whole ballroom upstairs. It was really cool.
I think that's crazy, because I remember going to Gen Con Milwaukee, and it was almost like, and maybe Mike, you maybe realized or thought the same thing, but it had a very anti-Games Workshop feel. Like GW would have like a modest booth, bigger than a normal booth, but it was almost like a we don't belong here kind of thought, and nobody was there for them. Nobody gave a fuck about them. There's no lines. They were like, there'd be I'm trying to think who would be like Jess Goodwin or one of the like almost like Virgil. Like, I want to talk to you. There's no line here. I'm not a celebrity here. Gen Con was the place where Games Workshop meant nothing, which for years and it was a weird thing because I was all about it, but I'd go there and be like, how come nobody here gives a fuck about these guys? And that's what, and it wasn't, it to me, at least I didn't go to the first few in Indy, but when I started to go to those, I started to realize, oh, okay, miniature games are now part of Gen Con. For years though, I never really felt like army miniatures, or part of the scene. So it's cool that you kind of, it's where you started playing other things, checking it out and playing it. And Blood Bowl was it a game, like a tournament there, or?
Yeah, 03 was one of the first tournaments, or I think one of the second, third tournament in the US. The rules were a mess, but we didn't know any better at the time. And that's where I met like some of the people I'd been talking to for quite a while on Talk Blood Bowl at that time, which was really cool. And then I'd say in like 04, I started meeting the people that I would know for years to come after that. So like 04, Gen Con 04, Chaos Cup is when I started meeting you guys and Zlurpcast people and stuff like that.
You were so into Talk Blood Bowl that you made your email address Xtreme TBBer, Xtreme Talk Blood Bowler.
Yeah,
when did you get the tattoo?
Yeah, I'm shocked, honestly, that you still have that email, that at no point did you ever say, I'm over this. I'm going to be whatever, Xtreme 69,
Well,
something
I
adult,
have- I have another email that, like, in public, when they ask for an email address, it's more of a basic.
So you're not
one.
embarrassed
Ah.
like I go Nacho Bandit
Right.
and you're like, oh.
You don't
But
have
it
like when
it
Tom,
forwards to my real email.
that's
So-
great. Like when Tom Anders asked Dean, like, what do you want your NFT? He's like, Avatar 666. He's like, he was not pleased at the, what is it supposed to be? Like, if that's your one time.
Mine
right?
is your son has AIDS at gmail.com.
Also, Valdric 69, I have that one as well.
Okay, there we go.
I do. When they say you have to enter an email, it's like for a sketchy site. I'm like, oh, we'll use Valdric 69.
Right. You have M.
The
Mahler
best-
at
it's the best.
USC and Valdric. Do you ever get them confused? Like,
No.
you're putting in an order, like, we got to get some new test tubes. And you're like, all right, email Valdric 69. Whoops. Put the wrong email. So Xtreme, at that point, would you say your traveling to play Blood Bowl began as well? Because you play at Gen Con, and then you probably went to some local Indianapolis tournaments too, right?
There were no local tournaments other than Gen Con at that time. And that's still really early. I think the closest ones were South Bend. So I was traveling as much as I could afford to at that time, which I think I'm a great job.
Is that Frosty Bowl back then? Is that what that was?
No, it was Soft Bend Slaughter.
Frosty Bowl was after Zlurpy.
Oh, yeah.
The South Bend Slaughter, and there was another South Bend tournament too. But yeah, there was a couple in South Bend.
Did you think that, like, who created Frosty? Was that Frank?
Yeah.
And you said, no, listen, I have the market cornered on parodies of drinks. You're doing Froz tea. He's like, yeah. You're like, I have Zlurpy Bowl. And he's like, uh-huh. You're like, I see, what I'm doing is I'm putting a Z in front of instead of an S for a drink. And he's like, yeah, me too. You're like, no. Like, can you do
That's
like,
a thing.
can you do like something based on like a Big Mac or something?
Well, he's going for the Wendy's ice cream treat.
Yeah, he's like, no, I really want to do a Frosty. You're like, yeah, I'd really like it if you didn't do Frosties though. Did that conversation ever happen?
Would anyone do like the imitation Frosty you get at movie theaters?
Icy was at Venture too, by the way.
Yeah.
You get a big
And
thing
Kmart.
of Kmart. Big thing of popcorn and a giant fucking Icy with the polar bears on it. So at that point, Xtreme, is that sort of the end of phase one, and phase two begins after that?
Yeah, it's like 04, 05. I got a different job and I was able to afford to travel a lot more. So that's when I started going to Michigan and Illinois and stuff, playing tournaments. And
Did you get a better job so you can travel to Blood Bowl?
No, that's a
It was
different
just-
story.
Okay.
I was kind of forced to get a different job.
I thought it was like,
Like,
more money would be nice and a family and all that, but man, I really got to get my ass to some of these Blood Bowl tournaments.
It's kind of you're fired from this job. It would be a good idea if you get a different job.
Oh, okay. Then you said, also, I'm going to set aside some gaming money.
What happened? Why'd you get fired?
Because I was doing things I shouldn't have been doing.
Masturbating. Got it.
Yeah.
But I kind of fell into a really good job at that time because my wife's uncle worked there, and it was awesome.
Yeah. Very nice.
Yep.
As for me, let's see. Let's go way back. So having an older brother, Dean, without Dean, I don't have any of this. So I don't have you guys. I don't have this show because that kind of like starts me on. I always think about this too. Like if Dean wasn't into heavy metal and like tabletop gaming type things, what would I have got into? I always think about that. Like, what would I have been? Maybe. So like my other brother, Dan, he didn't like heavy metal. He was more like 80s, like pop kind of music. And he would work on cars. I'm like, fuck, I could have learned cars. Instead, I did dice. You know what I mean? Learn the other side. And so, but Dean started to play games with me. So you have a 7-year age gap, Brian, with you and Taylor. Dean has 10 years with me. So the problem there is, like, it's not till you get older that it becomes okay to hang out with your little brother. So I think Dean's motives early on was, I'm going to try to get him into things that I think are cool. So if he tags along, maybe his actual friends don't mind that this kid is tagging along with all these things that he's doing. And we're like, hey, it smells funny in here. What are you doing? Like, don't worry about it. Just, like all the adult, the things that the 19-year-old kids are doing. And then the 9-year-old kid is brought, and so he's like, besides the music, playing drums, all that kind of stuff, playing games and stuff like that. So I think Dean's probably playing everything. So kind of like the Mike idea of whatever's around at the hobby store, that's what we do. Dungeons and Dragons, Ralph Partham, whatever's out, that's what you do. Because it's like the old, I don't remember if this was on the show or not, but whatever is on the network TV shows, that's what we watched. Doesn't matter if those shows were good or not. That's what was on. So gaming, you played with whatever you had. And so
who's older, Dean or Mike?
Dean, by about a year.
Dean's 67 year, by the way. Pretty soon your guys are going to be as old as the year you were born. He was born, what were you born?
68, yeah.
Oh, 68, okay.
Yeah.
1 year away, brother.
Yeah. From what?
69.
Yeah. Three great years for muscle cars too, by the way. So you have Dean playing games in his teenage years and it's not really for me. So what he's showing me would be things like we're playing Risk. You know what I mean? We're playing just board game, war game type things. I remember at the time, like doing the choose your own adventure books. Did you guys read Lone Wolf books back then? Did you read that series? So Lone Wolf was a choose your own adventure, but there was a table on the back that had numbers like not 10 by 10, but like 10 by 20. And for random roll, instead of saying, go buy a fucking dice and roll it, this back of this book, it was a pencil. And it was like,
close your eye.
Yeah. And we're like, pretty soon we got pretty damn good knowing where those nines were. It was like 0 through 9. Like we knew where the fucking 9s and 8s were.
Did you do like a little peek sometime? I really
not even that, just like a upper right, dude. It's upper. You might get a 1, but there's a lot of 8s and 9s up there. So, but basically that was it was a 1-player role-playing game book that we would get those. We'd buy those at like school book sales. And so, yeah, you had the whole turn to page, whatever, but it was also you're gaining skills and you're gaining, they called them, it was like I don't know if it was like a samurai kind of like style, but it was like they call them kai disciplines. And it was like you learn a new discipline. And so it was like we're playing these, role playing games. So I don't think Dean got me to play those. I think my friends in school, we bought those books. And so at the same time, he's playing probably more advanced things. And I guess around the same time, that's when we made Death Path in 6th grade. And that became, a combination of like abilities and those kind of like, I guess like Nintendo or computer game role-playing games probably influenced us into tabletop because we didn't really play. It wasn't so much Dungeons and Dragons. We had those with like starter sets and we would like maybe like look at them and play, but I think we just wanted to do our own thing, like as far as games, even back then. Kind of like Xtreme's, case of wanting to just create your own and play. So that's when we started to combine like the idea of skills and abilities along with drawing our own, like how to draw monsters or whatever. So we do that. That's like probably 5th and 6th grade. Junior high comes along, and that's when my 2 tabletop games started to really begin. And it was Dean showing me Blood Bowl, and then me and my 2 good friends, Adam and Kurt, which I think Mike probably meant Kurt because he showed up to Chaos Cup to buy Death Path art from Scott, I think. I don't know if you met him there, Mike.
Oh, yeah.
Or Katie knows him. We went to school with Katie too. So, and my friends Adam and Kurt, we made Death Path, and then we all played Axis and Allies together. And that was our game that we, so it was cool that Dean was showing me Blood Bowl. And I just kind of like, but it was in a way, it was cooler because we felt like at that time I'm junior high. So in a weird way, what's junior high, like 12 year, 11 or 12 or 13 maybe. There was that I want to discover games with my friends and not just play whatever my brother tells me to. So we played Axis and Allies, I would say 3 times a week. And we got to the point where like we knew everything we wanted to do. We knew how to win the games. We knew how, and then we just started to kind of say, well, we found 2 more people to play with. So that way we each took a country. And then it became almost in a weird way, like role-playing-esque where we just had, and we let people play it out that way too. So we're like, all right, almost drafting countries. Like, all right, Germany, and we would just keep doing that over and over again. Then still learning Blood Bowl, 2nd edition. I actually remember not playing that much though, because it was complicated. It was those 2nd edition rule books were not really that easy and all those stats. But of course it looked awesome. Like if you look through those old 2nd edition, like the handbook, the Blood Bowl handbook and the Blood Bowl team book or whatever it was called, they had this like cartoony kind of art to all the teams. Like the Chaos All-Star team, they were like, one dude's like sitting on a fucking lawn chair and he was like half an alien guy. It was just awesome looking. We only played like a few times though. We didn't have a league. I probably played the game maybe like 7 or 8 times total. But Dean had a friend named Greg that he would play Blood Bowl with, and he showed me and my friend Adam how to play. The guy Kurt that played Axis now, he didn't want to play Blood Bowl. He thought it was cool, but it wasn't for him. But we played a handful of times. But we realized early on that it just wasn't that fun. Like I played elves, my friend Adam played dwarves, and Dean had Skaven, and his friend Greg had dark elves. And there was no balance whatsoever. No. I got killed every fucking game. I got killed. There's casualties everywhere. I got killed. And it just wasn't that fun. So we kind of just stopped playing Blood Bowl. We still had our models, we had our teams. And I think Mutant League Football on Genesis came out like right after that. And we're like, let's just play this. It's like the same thing, but it's on Genesis, and we just play that instead. And so we just played that, and we made leagues out of that. And I'm trying to think, like, I don't think there was a lot of, like, there was no 40K. I had friends who played D&D, but I wasn't interested in doing anything else. It was really like, it was probably really only video games through high school. And there might have been those moments of like, it's not cool. So I was trying to not like get into it, even though I kind of wanted to. And actually there was one kid, he comes to school with a book. It's like a Warhammer fantasy book. And someone knocked it out of his hand. And I'm like, eh, and I'm laughing at him. And it's looking back, I feel terrible. But at the time, it further cemented that I'm making the right move by not being as dorky as I can. Even though it was still pretty fucking dorky to play video games.
But you could pass. You could pass as an normie.
Somewhat. It wasn't that normal though to do it, you know, but it was passable.
But you're walking around school, you didn't look like.
I'm walking around with Nintendo Power, and side note, and Biran, you're the only one here that might appreciate this, maybe Xtreme. I went to school with a kid named Mike Vallis, who started writing for Electronic Gaming Monthly because that was in Lombard. He used to come out with like, he'd have a trench coat, of course, and he'd be like, shit, this. He was 3 years older. So I'm a freshman, he's a senior. He's like, look at this. He has the EGM, like this would be in March. He has June's EGM in his fucking trench coat.
I know who Sushi X is.
Yeah, I know Sushi X. I know who Quarterman is or whatever. And I'm like, you know those guys? And it was weird to like think, how did you work there in high school? Like that boggles my mind still. That a game, like a video game magazine at that level hired a high school.
Because it was the Wild West back then. And the guy who ran it was probably high and cook most of the time.
Maybe, or maybe he was an intern, maybe.
Or he just submitted like his own written reviews to their office and they go, yeah, whatever.
It could have been,
for pennies.
The idea that like, dude, that guy fucking works at EGM. Like, holy shit, you know?
And now you realize to work at EGM now, you'd be making $10 an hour at most.
Right. Save some pussy for all of us. He's like, it's not an issue. Don't worry.
Remember when each review was only like 3 sentences
It was,
and they had 4 of them for each game?
Just a very quick, it was actually like a quick hits, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was very much not even a review. So yeah, I don't think it was, so I'm just trying to think back to now. So after high school, I start going to college at DuPage. I don't go to like real college. I don't go away to college. And at that time, it was Magic being played in like the COD, like common areas. And I saw these kids and I'm like, I do not want to play this game. There was D&D being played, and that I don't think that was for me either. And I think I wanted to give Blood Bowl another go. And so, yeah, so I actually pull out, I talked to Dean and we're like, let's try playing Blood Bowl again. It's 3rd edition. We didn't know, but 3rd edition was like a couple of months out from coming out. We didn't know. So we start actually looking through the Blood Bowl rule books again to start playing again. Now it's now at this point 3 years, or I guess 4 years, right? Because if I played in junior high school, 4 years after it came out. And yeah, I don't think there. So I'm guessing the math is right. It's probably about that time, about 4 years. And so then we go to Gamers Paradise in Villa Park, where Phil works. Phil is the manager at Gamers Paradise. And he said, I'm running a tournament. And we're like, oh, cool. Like we should play. Like it's, you know, there'd be like a baseball card show and a Blood Bowl tournament, like in one of the hallways next to like the place where you get hot pretzels or something. And we show up and Phil says, there's a new edition of the game out. We're like, oh, so we buy that, but we built our teams illegally with the 2nd edition rules. So I show up with a mixed race team. It's elves mostly.
Very progressive of you.
Yeah, it was. It's got a couple of humans, an ogre and a halfling. Oh, Puggy Bacon Breath, halfling star player, chainsaw wielding loony, and a couple of human dudes. I win the tournament, destroy everybody with an illegal team. Nobody calls me on it. Nobody tells me what I did was wrong. Phil goes, take any team off the shelf, you win. And I grab the Champions of Death undead team off the shelf. And that's when, like, I think we get home and me and Dean are like, we did not play the right way at all.
No, you did. You won.
Yeah.
I remember playing. I think it was one of the South Bend tournaments. There was a guy that showed up that hadn't played since 2nd edition, and he brought his dwarves out and like didn't know the turnover rule, didn't know anything, and just sat down to play this tournament. And I was like, this is not going to be a fun day.
No, in fact, I remember like I was, you know, no pun intended, fumbling through all my games because I didn't know. It just was weird. Like I didn't like there was, so Mike, you might, so it was Phil, Carl, who you know.
Yeah.
Justin, remember him? Justin Pafiel.
Oh yeah.
He had a shirt. Fun fact, at this tournament, he made his own shirt. Biran, you appreciate this. It was a white T-shirt but he made it like hand-drawn marker. And it was a picture of a dude running with a football like that. And it said, Magic players sit on the sidelines. I'll never forget that shirt because it was like, this is a fucking statement.
Did he use a Mantic shirt that only had printing on the back?
Pre-Mantic. It was a straight up Hanes $4.99 shirt.
It wasn't even a Gildan green?
No, it was fucking Hanes his way or whatever. So
like with yellow, like he yellowed the armpits really.
I would say no at yellow. I think it was the first appearance of the shirt. He just made it.
Okay.
But it said Magic players sit in the sideline because at this time we're talking 1995. Magic was huge, and it was like, I don't know if he expected. Maybe it was a con shirt. Maybe he made it to wear at a con to say "fuck you" to those guys. We're not playing. But it didn't have an impact as he expected at a Blood Bowl tournament in the mall
At Underground Cup, Brian, did you make your own Haynes T-shirt with a "Star Players Are for Pussies" written on it?
No.
Oh.
No, he
If
did.
you make it for me, I'll wear it.
He got an Extreme shirt back then, though, but not a Extreme jersey, but not a.
What you told me that I was thinking, is that a joke? Is it like in the realm of Shy Tacos burritos joke, or
The Magic sidelines?
yeah?
Well,
It was like he was mocking people that
I will tell you, when I saw that shirt, I had no idea what it even meant, because I was, again, this is probably, so I'm like probably like just just at COD, just learning magic, what magic is. I had probably I think I literally thought he meant something like a Blood Bowl wizard or something like magic. Like I didn't even put two and two together that it was a shirt about a game, like, or about another game. I just thought it was a Blood Bowl shirt, like don't use wit, like, you know what I mean? I wasn't even thinking. So met him, Carl, Phil, all those. Me and Dean played, and I won it, and it was awesome. And I cheated. Fantastic. If you're not cheating, or if you're not trying, or whatever, whatever.
If you're not rubbing, you're not racing.
Yeah. After that moment, Dean and I decide, hey, let's get clean. Let's play the way we're supposed to play. So then we really learn Blood Bowl 3rd edition, the block dice, and how it really, like, I mean, we used them in the tournament, but we didn't know what we were doing. We just, like I said, fumbled through.
Oh, those arrows. That means I move that way with my character.
Arrows. I push your guy as far as I rolled the dice. That direct. Fun fact. So this was of the era where Frenzy was unlimited moves.
Unlimited Frenzy, yeah.
Like, if you cut this guy in the middle, like Troll Slayer moves 5 squared. Oh, a couple of go for it. Boom, 7. You're out. It was great. So at this time, so this is 1995, 96 now. I go into like to Extreme's point earlier. That's the moment where I said, I guess I'm going to be a gamer, because for a while it was Axis and Allies, board games, and Blood Bowl. I didn't call myself a gamer because I wasn't playing war games or role playing games really at that time. But then I was like, at that point, I was like, fuck it. What else am I going to do? We're already there. So then I'm working at Best Buy, and I meet Scott, who Mike sort of knows, and a couple of. Okay.
I've seen Peter North movies, so yeah.
He looks like Peter North, but shorter. I never saw his dick though, but I mean,
Peter North or this guy?
This guy. I've seen Peter North. Obviously. Obviously. I even made stats for it because I was in that mindset at the time. I made stats for everything. So then while I'm at Best Buy, Scott tells me, it was like he became sort of like my good, kind of best friend at the time, where we're, sharing hobbies. We both, get super into like real video games, like Japanese. We go to Cyber, what was that place in Schaumburg, Biran? Cyber Exchange?
Yeah, they would get like import games and shit in.
Yeah. We're only buying games that could be played on the PC Engine, and
you had to get a modded PlayStation to play.
Right. I had a Super Famicom. It was called the Super Magicom though. And you plug it into a Super Nintendo, and it plugs into a floppy disk drive, and then you can play the Japanese versions of the games, but they were like cracked versions. So my version of Street Fighter is they took the blood out and they made it sweat. I had the one where they colored in the sweat and made it blood again. So, and the nudity was back in for Leisure Shoot. So anyway, I show Scott Blood Bowl, and then we both started, I think at that time we started to go to Graham Cracker Comics, which is right next to Best Buy on Army Trail in Bloomingdale at the time. And we meet Bobby Cranston there. We had on our Zombicide episode. And then that's when it was like, it's on. Like I'd say probably 96, it's on. We played everything. So Blood Bowl still happened, but then like whatever was out of the time, 40K, we get into Necromunda, we get into a little bit of Warhammer Fantasy. Hero Clicks was coming out maybe a year later. All the card games, like everything. So like any license that existed, from Star Wars to Highlander to Dune to Buffy to, we played Netrunner, like what, like everything that wasn't Magic we played, because it was like, fuck that game, fuck those guys that play Magic.
I'm a Sega kid, I'm not playing that.
And in a weird way, then it was kind of like some people started playing D&D, and we, like, while we played it a little bit, we actually opted for all the other role-playing games that were not, it was a weird kind of like you said, if you're a Sega, like
You were a
we-
Sega kid.
we played all the games that weren't popular. So we're not going to play D&D. We're going to play the like West End Games Star Wars role-playing game. You know, we're not going to play Magic. We're going to play Netrunner.
We're
played all
gonna go to the mall and play Vampire in real.
right, all the other things. So at that point it was like full-on game where we played everything, because then it was like, fuck it, we're doing everything nerdy. So then I started, you know, while I read some comics as a kid, that was when I really was like, well, fuck it, you know. And you start to see the Rob Liefeld 90s at that point, all the X titles, give me all of them, that kind of thing at the time. And I think from there, I'm trying to think, it was really like, I'm trying to think what lasted, what Blood Bowl. So Dean and I became the commissioner of the Old World Football League. I would say one of the oldest Blood Bowl leagues in the country. I'll claim that. Playing in Dean's basement. First league is probably 96, and is me, Dean, his buddy Greg, and Phil, maybe Carl. And that was it. And don't even remember what happened. I'm dead because I used the only team I had for a while.
The team you won?
I don't know. I don't remember who won. Dean
No,
won a bunch.
didn't you win an undead team by cheating in the tournament?
The team I won. Yes, that was, yeah. So it was, you know, an official team, Biran, but I won it with, I won it with like, you know,
Nefarious means.
blood money, if you will. Yeah. Dean won I think a bunch of the leagues, which I always thought, like, wait, I have to do all the work and run it, and he gets the glory of winning all the time. Well, I don't think I win so much later on, but each of those leagues though, so we would play for, like, you know, play everybody twice or whatever. We tried to do a new league every year. So 96, 97, and every year we added like 2 or 3 more players. And we were still playing 40K at the time too. So I had a Chaos Army in 40K. Scott had a Tyranid Army. Dean had Eldar. And we all had one army, because it was at that time more than enough, you know. Paul was playing too. Paul E. Wright, who you guys know, refused to play Blood Bowl. It's like, I'm not playing Blood Bowl. We're like, come on, man, we're up. He's like, there's no war elements. I will not play. He only played games that had a war element to it. That was one of his rules of sorts.
He would have been a good Blood Bowl player.
He'd been great.
Yeah, he would have been just.
I bought a high elf team just to try to sell it to him on the cheap to get him to play. He eventually tried one game. He said, it's not for me. And then I think Dean ended up with it. It was like one of those, we tried really hard to get him into the game. It just wasn't clicking. The football thing was just kind of too much of a, I don't like sports. I don't want to play this. Even though if you put it aside, because Mike, as all you guys know, like, there are people who played Blood Bowl who don't watch sports, you know, but anyway, but Paul played 40K with us in some other games. Blood Bowl, I would say that while 40K was coming and going, like an edition would come out, we would all jump on and play a bunch, and then we'd get in arguments and know that it was like a miserable time, 4 hours, and we're just yelling at each other, and we just trickle down until a new edition came out. Blood Bowl was not that. Blood Bowl was like I was like almost like militant, where it became a new league starting. Here are all the rules we're going to use. Here's all the house rules. We had homemade star players. We had I had a system where you create your own star players. We had because, you know, that's what happens in Blood Bowl leagues. You build off of the previous one. It never ends up being easier. It always ends up being more like everything is added on. So somebody new coming in, it's like, man, you don't know what you're in for, because can I just buy the box and play? Well, you can buy the box, but let me give you this 38-page, you know, like I've got Andy Welton's Crusher League format that I stole his Word document and put our shit in it. Years later, he's like, hey man, you stole our shit. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I created the Crusher League. And I'm like, I just wanted your background and font. I don't know, man. But then we later found out we did steal all that shit because then we'd like, hey, someone made rules for a Nippon team, like ninjas, and that was Andy's league. We would take someone made leagues for a forest folk team, and we like that was Andy's league. I didn't meet him until years later, but meanwhile, we learned later on we were stealing all his league rules. But the one rule in all those Blood Bowl leagues, we had two rules. One was scheduled, like NFL style, where it's you play this person, and we had the weekly, here are the stats, here are the update and all that. And it was to the point where if it's on the internet, it is official. Because clearly to publish rules on the internet, you must have some kind of, checks and balances and some thousands of hours play testing and all that. Obviously that had to have happened. So someone's like, hey, I found this rule for speaking of Lord of the Rings, it's like, can I use, I was thinking about using like Sauron as a star player on my team. Like, what are his stats? They're like, Dark Elf Lord, Strength 9. Like, bring him in. What's his cost? 420,000. Fuck yeah, bring him in, dude. Bring him in. So we had this star player list with like hundreds of like star players in there from anything online. And it became the like everything goes league because the idea was in the earlier days of the internet, it felt like this is a scholarly resource. It's like, if people are finding, information online, why don't we get our Blood Bowl stuff on? So that was kind of like where that all came from.
Was this Blood Bowl mailing list era, or was this like a Blood Bowl Central Talk
Blood Bowl mailing? Yeah, thanks, Xtreme. B-Bowl or something on the rec. I think it was like rec Warhammer.net or some shit. It was that was a used. There was a used group with Blood Bowl rules. Then there was also the Blood Bowl mailing list, which was literally an email. It was like a Yahoo group or something, where you send an email and your email goes to the group and everybody gets your email, right?
Yeah, I remember it was super exciting because Jervis like sent 1 or 2 emails to the Blood Bowl mailing list, and we're like, oh my god.
2 things I remember from the Blood Bowl mailing list. A guy named Dean Maki was the creator, like, because it was like, because you would get, when you got an email from Dean Maki, M-A-K-I, it was like, oh shit, the fucking Lord of the Blood Bowl list is speaking, we better listen. Like, I decree the Nippon team is no longer official. We're like, no! Can we use it anyway? Because fuck it, let's just use it. And then an email would come in like twice a year from Jervis J at games-workshop.com. We're like, oh shit, like Jervis J. And then I remember it was supposed to be like blocked out so you wouldn't get his email. And then one email, it actually came through and we're like, somebody didn't block out Jervis's email. Like, you guys, you know what this means, right? Like, we can find out where he fucking lives and shit and kill him,
Get a suit.
It was like, we were so happy that we had Jervis's email address. Like, there's an old SNL skit with, so David Spade works at a movie store in Hollywood. And every time somebody comes in, they talk about a movie, they're like, oh, Pulp Fiction, heard about this. He goes, Quentin Tarantino comes in here. I have his phone number, not going to do anything with it though. He would always tell the customer what like personal info he has. And he always say, not going to do anything with it, but I have a social, just so you know. Like, that felt like us with, like, we have Jervis's email. I'm not going to do anything with it though, but like, if it ever really like came down to it and I need to ask him how something works, I'll just email him. I don't give a fuck. I don't care if I'm going to disrupt his day. I don't give a fuck. Like, that's what it was. What it felt like with that.
He works for you.
I bought the box set. I'm his customer, but he works for me. It's kind of a weird. Yeah, you're right. Blood Bowl mailing list, and then forums started to get a little popular. So yeah, BB Central, which was Andy's group, started to get big. Talk Blood Bowl, the NAF. Well, that was still a couple of years away. Adeptus Windy City had a Blood Bowl section, so that's probably where we did most of it.
Is that still around?
I don't think so. I think it's like done completely. First tournament we go to, Dean and I think at this time, okay, so those leagues, they kept building one from another. And then we eventually, Michael, appreciate this one because there was the league in Dean's old basement, and Katie played in it. And so I remember like Katie being Carl's babysitter, right? Is that where
Katie babysitted his children
sorry.
and lived next door to him?
Yes, she wasn't babysitting Carl. She was Carl's children's babysitter. She was not Carl's babysitter. But I remember Carl bringing her in, said, do you mind if I bring some people in? And it was Katie and Pete.
Yeah.
And so we're like, yeah, she shows up. I'm like, holy shit. Like you play, it was like the worlds collide kind of moment. And so, Katie starts playing Blood Bowl. And then at that point, that was our biggest league by far. We had like 18 coaches playing weekly. It was a whole thing where we would have like, we had to chip in for pizza. We had trophy. Like it was like a whole, like I said, that was probably the climax, if you will, of Blood Bowl leagues. Because at that point, I think everyone kind of just got enough of it. And then we started to go into tournaments and it just kind of faded away, honestly. Just kind of went away. Dean and I, though, we see on Adeptus Windy City, someone's going to run a tournament at, there was a group of like a subdivision in Aurora or Naperville called Hometown. Does that sound familiar, Mike? Where it was like a bunch of like new houses all went up, and they were like like single family houses, but it was like a community. It was like a weird, like a Pleasantville kind of like, it was like this like brand new community that built up, and there was a huge clubhouse. And I later learned that a bunch of 40K and Blood Bowl people all bought houses in there, and they were great for them because they were all like walking distance to each other's house. And they all play there. And there's a clubhouse, and Dean Vukovic. Does that sound familiar, Mike, at all? He became like a tournament 40K guy. He ran a Blood Bowl tournament at like the clubhouse there. And Andy Weldon showed up, and he brought his friends, and me and Dean showed up, and maybe one person we brought with, I think, maybe not. And then it was a bunch of 40K players who also played Blood Bowl. So it was like 3 groups that all played. This is all pre-NAF. I'll never forget this. Dean's in the finals, of course, with this Skaven team, and it was a tie. And the tiebreaker was not overtime. It was draw a card, a playing card. Highest card wins. Dean pulls out, boom, king. I think it was Andy, because they were both heavy metal fans, as we later learned. Andy's like, ace of spades, Motorhead. And he pulls out an ace and wins the tournament with the fucking ace of spades card there. At that point, though, it was great meeting them because everybody that played in that, for the most part, had interest in kind of doing the whole NAF scene and going to games day, playing an NAF game. Let me take a step back. So right before that NAF stuff, that's when the Super Bowl Blood Bowl tournament situation happened.
Oh yeah.
So this is like, now we're talking like 02, 03, and Crooked Hat opens up, and the Games Workshop. I think we've told the story on Zlurpcast before, so I'll give a bridge version of it. But like, their Games Workshop guy shows up from Scotland, I think, not even England, and he's like, "Oh, week league tournaments. Winner of each tournament gets a ticket to the big tournament that'll be on Super Bowl Sunday. Winner of that tournament goes to the Super Bowl next year." All right? Sounds fucking badass. I wasn't a big fan of playing Blood Bowl during the Super Bowl, but hey, if I can win tickets to the Super Bowl the next year, fucking A. So Todd sets up 4 of them, 4 qualifying tournaments. The other 4, Bunker hasn't opened yet, by the way. The other 4 are at North Beach.
Yeah, I was going to say North Beach. Yeah.
Xtreme, you remember that place, right? We used to go there after the beginning, the initial Blood Bowl tournament. And so sand volleyball, sports bar, like that whole scene. I don't go to any of the Blood Bowl tournaments there, but I start to hear what happens. Like, what the fuck is this? Like, I'm trying to drink a fucking Zima, and
these queers are playing this game.
Yeah, the fucking dorks. So kicking sand, I didn't go to those. I do go to the ones at Crooked Hat though. These tournaments, Biran, you would have loved it because like tournament
Oh, I
one,
doubt it.
no, hold on. 3 people show up. One of them's Todd. Me and Dean are the other ones. So like we play each other twice each, whatever. And first place gets, Todd had prizes already. So whoever won got a ticket into the big tournament. Whoever got second place got like, $100 off the shelf. So it was like, fuck, I want second place. I don't know what the fuck this thing's gonna be, this tournament.
Tell you what, Dean, you win this one, I
Right.
win the next one. We both get tickets and we both get $100.
That's exactly what it felt like. So it started to catch on. More and more people showed up. I don't think Dean actually got a qualifying. Oh yeah, because the bunker's about to open. The guy from Games Workshop realizes this tournament is a failure completely. So Todd and North Beach don't even get to run their 4 each. They're supposed to get 8 winners, and the 8 winners were going to go into the big tournament. So yes, Biran, it was sort of going to be like that. Not I'll give you this one, but hey, I already won one, so I don't give a shit. So Dean's like, well, I got it made. I'm going to definitely win one of these at some point. Dean can't make the second Crooked Hat one. Something happens. There isn't a 3rd and 4th one at Crooked Hat or North Beach. We only have 4 winners. So Dean's pissed because like, I wanted to fucking be in this tournament. He never got a chance to. So then I was like, what's going to happen with this? Games Workshop guy not only cuts the tournament in half, but then says, we're not doing the Super Bowl thing. It's not going to
Turns out
happen.
it's more than a couple $100 to go to the Super Bowl.
Turns out it costs a lot of money. You got to know somebody. So he says, here's what we're going to do. So we're like, I'm fucking get a lawyer.
Yeah, I'm gonna sue.
Fucking sue you.
Wouldn't try it, dork.
Exactly. I was a dork. Nay, I am a dork. So it didn't go anywhere. But the guy says the bunker's going to open up in a couple of months. We're going to do a grand tournament finale there, not on the Super Bowl. Just it's going to be you. I'm pointing him, like telling me. I think it's like an email at this point. The 3 other guys that won. The 3 other guys were like 40K guys that were also playing a little bit of Blood Bowl. Oh, I didn't tell you what my team was. I had the metal human team from 3rd edition.
Is this the abbreviated version?
Yeah, it is. Ass. This is very timely though. It was the metal human team. I painted them silver and black, called them the Tillian Raiders, like an Oakland Raiders team, LA Raiders, with Morgan Thorg and Griff Oberwald.
That is not a Xtreme approved team.
Proud as fuck to make this cheesy ass team. I think it was as close to all linemen as I could. It might have been like 8 linemen, 2 blitzers, and Griffin Moores, something like that. So I show up with this team and I'm like, I'm going to just destroy everybody and win whatever the prize is. The prize then is the winner gets $400 store credit at the bunker.
Damn.
Yeah. The losers get, they don't say. I don't think they made it clear what the losers would get. So I meet these 2 or 3 other guys. One guy's name's Mick Jaggard, like Mick Jagger, but Mick Jaggard. Anyone watching this from the Chicagoland 40K scene know him as Papa Nurgle on the Adeptus Windy City forums. He would actually pull his shirt up and hit his belly and go,
His belly, yeah.
It was pretty intense. Another guy was named Wild Bill, another 40K guy, and then I don't remember the 3rd person.
Was it a bald guy?
I don't remember. He was the unremarkable one of the group. And then me. We go to the bunker. We all meet. We play. I think we play a game and go to like Portillo's or something. And then somebody says like let's make a pact kind of thing. like an American Pie.
Pinky
We're all
swear.
going to get laid this summer, you know? No matter who wins, guys, let's split it. And I'm like, I'm not toasting this fucking shit. I don't want any part of this because I have Griffin Morg and I'm here to win. So I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever. And thinking, I'm not doing this. We play. I end up getting to the end and I play the other guy who's like 3-0 and I lose like in like some bullshit fashion, of course. Like I roll a one, and Griffin Morg, you know, Griff gets hurt in the first turn. One of those kind of things, like my whole plan is unraveling before me. And so I'm like, hey, are we guys all doing that split thing? Are we still doing that split the prize money thing, everybody? And then the GW guy's like, hey, we don't want anyone to split. We're going to give the 3 runner-ups $100 each. We're all like, cool, everybody wins. Like, you guys don't know, I had no intention of
Yes.
split. So the dude that wins walks out with like a fuck ton of 40K shit, because at the time you could get a lot for $400, like, you know, 2 armies. And I don't remember what I bought, but just the whole idea of the Super Bowl thing is still mind-boggling to me, that it wasn't even a money thing. But anyway, sorry, you're right, Biran. It was not the Cliff Notes version, but it was, I had to say it. At that point, the rest is kind of history. Blood Bowl tournaments, every year, Chaos Cup. Who's that guy with the Xtreme jersey and the Ogre team? Like, I'm not going to talk to him. Like, these guys think they're like hot shit on some fucking forum. We're not talking to them. Like, we all agree, fuck those guys, fuck those guys. And then Blood Bowl leagues that happen still. We get the Blood Bowl leagues sort of revived. I think like bunker leagues, right, Mike? Where it became Flyer. And I just wanted to play then, and then Phil and everybody, and then you jump in. And then other games, of course, more time, all that kind of stuff. The rest is then Zlurpcast history from there. So yeah. Thinking back, it's kind of exhausting. It kind of sucks thinking back. Like to know I was gonna keep the prize money, you know. But whatever.
When you would sit down and play more than one game in a row.
Well, a tournament. You mean like not Blood Bowl?
I can't play any game more than once in a night.
I almost have to. If I'm doing that like at a tournament setting, like when we did Kings of War and that kind of thing, I have to almost psych myself up to say I'm going to try to play fast. I'm going to try to not second guess things. I'm going to not even like think like I almost have to like have a game plan of not to have a game plan, if that makes sense. In order to
don't
play
overthink, make sure you don't get too competitive and jerky about it. You know?
The biggest thing is the go with your first instinct things in those kind of games. Because whereas if you're playing one game, you find yourself like we played like the Techno Bowl League. I'm like even though didn't we do 2 a night?
2 games a night.
I still found myself overanalyzing a lot, like thinking too much. I shouldn't have, but like yeah, other games I try not to do that. Like we've done kill team tournaments and 40K. I guess we did 40K. I ran a couple 40K tournaments back in the day. Like they were closed tournaments though.
Right.
We did 40K tournaments in
We
Dean's
call those
basement.
invitationals.
They were 100% invitationals. We played 3 games and it was like, you know, laid back. We were like drinking and like grilling and that kind of shit. But it was all 100% invitational. So I would do those again, but they have to be those rules at somebody's house and having fun, like not at a store. We want to swear and play music and burp and fart and do the things that dudes do, man. So anyway.
Yeah.
So that's it. Anything else to add in our how we got into gaming episode?
Just that it was all a bad mistake.
Like the episode or the playing?
No, getting into gaming.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean,
I do wonder what my life would have be like. What would I be doing?
You'd already be sitting
Would I
on a
be
private
successful?
island with a bunch of whores.
I always
Yeah.
think about that shit all the time. Like because just especially like things that I've done, like all the different like just careers and different things. Like I always like do the whole like what other timelines could have been. I always
The
do that.
multiverse of JP.
I think all the time. I always think about that Community episode, the Chaos Theory episode.
yeah.
Which is one of my all-time favorite TV show episodes. The alternate, like what could
You
have
look at
been.
your stack of gaming stuff and just realize how much money that was.
Yeah, the biggest thing.
Oh,
that
I try
definitely-
never to do that, but
You know what sucks about gaming stuff, honestly, is when you buy gaming rule books and know you're not going to play the game.
Yep.
Like, I fucking hate that so much. Like, you're not going to play it. Someone has to force you to play that game, but you still knowing that bought the rules. I hate that.
I was in my garage and I saw a plastic bin full of 7th edition codexes. And I'm like, why didn't I just throw that out?
Yeah.
Why is that taking up space?
Like, I found one of those too, and it had a Zinch only codex, and I had I'm never gonna play them. I'm never gonna play fucking Thousand Suns. Why did I buy that? And then it had an orc war boss codex. Like, it was a codex for 7th edition that was just had 3 characters in it. It was like $30 probably. Why did I buy this?
It'd be $50 today, 60.
It would be. No hardcover back then. It's all floppies. But yeah, anyway. Yeah, the gaming regrets suck. Did we have an episode?
Yes, we did. I believe the
hate
thumbnail was the no regrets guy.
No regrets guy. Yeah, because I hate the fact that you'll buy game, like I said, knowing you're not going to play it.
I mean, I look back and going to Blood Bowl tournaments, it's amazing to me that I can directly tie almost all of my adult friends into people that I've met.
oh yeah,
through Blood
yeah.
Yeah.
Bowl. That's amazing to me.
To think that technically, Brian, you and I met through Blood Bowl,
Absolutely.
having never played each other in Blood Bowl.
So my goal in this new Blood Bowl 2.0 resurgence that Biran just fuming about, obviously.
I
my-
don't care because I actually enjoy when my friends are playing Blood Bowl and I'm not.
Biran, do you like seeing your friends have fun and get enthusiastic though? Okay.
Yeah.
So I have a goal of mine, and it's one of those where it's like betting on something you have control over. Because now that I tell you this, Biran, you now have an influence. It's like,
Mhm.
Pete Rose business type stuff, I want Biran to play at an NAF Blood Bowl tournament at some point. My goal is to make it happen.
No,
Now I know now that you know about it, you're going to actively fight against it. It doesn't
That
mean
hard.
but here's the thing, you guys know.
Does he have
But
to,
could I do it?
does he have to finish the tournament?
No, good point. He needs to get recorded in NAF one game, but
Yeah.
he has to have an NAF record at some point. And as much as Biran could fight, and even though he knows the plan, it doesn't matter because I am very powerful at a lot of things.
What,
And
could I do
I-
it with my plan of I roll 2 die block and I choose the one where I fall down instead of
course.
the one where I knock
of course.
I can choose what I want, right?
Yeah.
And if I fall
Cool.
down, my turn's over, right? Right?
Biran,
I choose
you
the
gotta
fall.
remember. So one of our big Zlurp Nation fans, Alex Schutte, who's watching this, he watches all of these and comments, so thank you for that. He made a name for himself. He became legendary as the casualty kid because he basically said, fuck you. I'm not going to try to win. I'm going to beat the shit out of all your guys. I'm going to walk past the ball and kick you. And there's kind of an element of, there's a little Biran in there, a little Biran spirit.
But I would be like, all right, my first turn, I'm going to activate my Croxagore. And he's going to try to pick up the ball.
And he's good. Yeah.
He's going to dodge out. Oh, I failed.
Would you roll a 1 to try to get a 1? Or
I'd roll it,
Reroll.
and use a reroll to try to get a 1.
Can you still re-roll Bonehead or no? Is that a new rule? Can you re-roll Bonehead?
Like
Yeah.
if you pass Bonehead, could I say I'm going to reroll to see if I can get it to fail?
You re-roll Bonehead, but they usually have Loner too. So you have to
No,
pay a
you can
loner.
say, I'm declining the loner roll. So you're going to burn a re-roll and then say, I choose not, like, I'm burning this. You have loner. I choose not to be a loner. I choose not to be alone.
I assume as long as you're not giving yourself any benefit, then your opponent won't care, especially in a tournament.
Well, you know what'll happen? Anyone who doesn't get to play you will get mad at it and get to play. That's
Like, oh, you got to play Thompson.
right. You got, yeah, you
like
and
in
you
Dubai.
guys finished first and second, both had Biran on your list. Now you got stuck playing fucking Vanderbeek.
Everyone's like, we're doing the Biran meta. Try to
Yeah.
draw Biran in the early rounds.
You know what I would tell those people? Bring your own Biran next time. You want to play against the Biran, replicate the fucking Birans.
It's the Biran ringer rule.
Right. Don't get mad that I brought a Biran. Bring your own fucking Birans.
First
So-
match was a grudge match, and I choose Biran.
Right. So if you got 10 people at the tournament and you got 4 Biran archetypes, fucking build the Biran pool if you want a higher chance. To
And
pull
then
Biran.
imagine the Biran on Biran action.
Oh my God, that would be amazing. In fact, I would say let's film that one because I want to prove to everyone out there that not only is this whole tournament a farce, but look at this fucking game.
It'd be the fastest game ever because it'd be turnover after turnover, right? It would go so
NAF,
fast.
Well, there
And
have
they
been
have
games that were it was the handshake was the end. It's a tie.
Well done.
The handshake ends the game, and they're just going to sit there.
stream that game, Biran versus, Biran V2, stream it, watch NAF officials' head explode. Like that would just be the ultimate. And like, guess what? When the day is all said and done and you go to thenaf.net and then you have to like click to get in the members because there's like 10 clicks to get there. And then you go, you got a tournament. And then you like,
So if I roll 3 POWs, can I say I'm going to reroll?
you go to the last page, you go to US Lizard Man, page 47.
Of
and you see
47.
Biran 69, lowest ranked in the country. And then you go, is it world too? And you're like, let me check. You go all the way back. And it says like page not displayed because there's a fuck up in the thing. And you got to go all the way back and re-sign back in. And then you go to world rankings and you see Biran is second to the last one. You're like, he's not last. Like, nope. You know who is? Xtreme? Who's last?
Big sexy.
No. Who's that guy we just talked about the other day? Who's like, he's
Oh.
still last after all these years.
I forget.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I forget his name.
Like, is it Benny? Is it Benny or something? Like there's a guy, Biran, that you're gonna love. He's probably like you in another country.
Mhm.
He's like last place with all the teams. I love that.
So he has the badge for playing every team.
Oh, his name's Yo Benny. It's Yo Benny. Xtreme, does that sound familiar?
Yeah.
Yo Benny. So I want a Yo Biran right here. So anyway, Mike went to go take a dump, but now's a good time to close it out. Anything else on the Tales of Danhausen and the
We're
Tales
excited
of
for
our-
next week.
So
Oh yeah,
next week's episode of next week, you're going to want to watch that one. Not only is it a Zlurpcast episode, you should watch all of them and share on social media at Zlurpcast discussion. Join the Discord. There's a link to the invites that in the Zlurpcast Facebook page. But a very Zlurpy Christmas happens next week. And we were thinking about doing like a Secret Santa where we do like a 1 buys 1. We're like, you know what? We're all
not
rich.
poor.
Yeah. Like we're not Xtreme circa 1994 where we got to make up our own rules for a garage sale game. We have dollar bills, y'all. And Xtreme can buy a present for Biran and Valdric and for me, as will I, as have I. So will Valdric, so will Biran. So we all have a present that has either arrived or shortly to be arriving.
Or hand delivered.
Or hand delivered and wrapped. None of them will be opened beforehand. We have no idea.
No peeking.
Before we close it out, Mike, we were just saying our goodbyes. You didn't miss anything. And hype you in the next episode. Shall we go on record to say how many are going to be considered joke gifts and how many are considered quote unquote real gifts? So let's do it this way. Let's say, let's just do not a signing, but a number. I think of Biran's 3 gifts, all 3 are jokes.
There are actually 2 gifts per person, though.
Oh,
Oh,
a
did you go a
joke
little
and a
over?
real?
I just went a little over.
I went a little over too, because, things add up, shipping, tax, whatever.
Because I want to get one that's clearly a joke gift. So if the other one you think is really stupid, go, oh no, that was a joke too.
Yeah, right. They're all, I did this one as a goof. Well, what about the sex toy? Also a goof.
Yeah.
Sorry. So I'm going to go Biran all. So even if there's two per, I'm going to go all jokes.
Mhm.
Extreme, I'm going to go, or Mike, I'm going to go all real. And Extreme, I'm going to go 2 real, 1 joke. What about you guys?
I think JP's going to be all jokes, but with a hint of real,
Fair.
like a twist. Like the drink is a joke, but there's a twist on the rim of real.
Yeah. Like you didn't want, like I'm telling you it's a margarita and you say, I'm just going to have the salt. And then I'm like, I got you. I peed in it.
And that's come on the ring, not salt.
So, right. I just want the salt because I thought you might have peed in it. I'm like, you thought right. Extreme. What do you think about my choices?
I will say 1 joke.
1 joke, 2 reels, Mike?
For your gifts?
Or who? Yeah, what I got for people.
Sounds about right.
So I said Extreme. What do you guys think for? So Biran, what do you think for Extreme?
I think it'll be real. And I think Mike will be real and yours will be goof.
Okay.
So real goof.
Okay. Mike, what do you think for Extreme and Biran?
I think Biran's will be goofs.
Both of them?
Yours, what?
Both of them?
Well, I don't know. I didn't know there were both of them.
Yeah. Biran had to top everybody. So.
Yeah.
Yours, I don't know. I have no idea.
I will tell you this,
Seems to be
Mike.
real.
I had 1 killer joke one that I decided against the for you. Now, was it replaced with another joke or a real? Can't say. But I had a killer joke, which we'll talk about afterwards. But I was thinking like, wait a minute. It's kind of practical, but a total goof.
I'm going to guess Brian is going to be a Ruth Bader Ginsburg or AOC candle.
Oh, it smells like vagina?
Yeah. No, that's the one from Goop.
Did you say goop? You say as a goop?
Is a goop.
As a goop.
So there's presents that are as a goof, then there's presents that are as a goop, which smell.
Yeah.
Okay. Extreme? Anything you want to add on the presents?
Nope, I'm looking
Okay.
forward to it.
It's going to be a fun one. So that is 1 week from today. We will record and then you'll see that one and enjoy it. That'll be the very Zlurpy Christmas episode.
It'll warm your heart.
It will. Warm your heart and good for your farts, as they say. The old saying. Until then, that's it. Bye, everyone. Oh, Zlurp on that sub button. Use that hashtag. We haven't done it in a while. Hashtag Zlurp on that sub button.
Zlurpcast! Brought to you by Nuffles. Bet you can't just roll a 1.